On today's episode of LTFGO, White Day is coming, and so is Ordeal Call 2. After White Day, we promise. And so, much like the white follows the red, we must say we are here again. And of course, if I have to turn that into an intro joke, I must be one of your hosts, Omega, and I must be the white, and that means that Lucky has to be the red. Otherwise, we're gonna cause problems.
Well, I'm just gonna shrug at that and go, I hope everyone is enjoying Fate Grand Order, aka a gift with many meanings. And while we here at Studio Mega like to bring you the latest FGO-related news and memes, we will be talking about current and future events throughout the JP and EM version of the game. So anyone not wanting spoilers should stop getting sick and being awake at odd hours. It's me. That's me. Lucky's doing that.
I'm sure with the power of positive thinking, it'll just get better, won't it, Jake? It's okay. I was being a little ill today, and I'm not going to sleep good because I'm ordering groceries while my parents are out with family stuff over the weekend. So it's just me. I have to get my frozen goods in. My Freezy Pop breakfast.
Freezy Pop.
Hopefully it will be cooler. Luckily, I'm full up. I don't need to order like a gallon of milk or anything. You do not want to leave that shit outside on your porch accidentally. But also, I won't leave it out accidentally because I will not sleep good and I will be awake way earlier than I need to be. Much like we are right now. We're awake. Do we have to be? Of course. Sorry, now I'm just thinking, shit, man, if we could record the show while we're sleeping, Dreamo-Vision.
That'd be weird.
Be a weird show.
Lucky's dreams are weird, man.
Yeah, I don't think chat's quite ready for our unbridled collective subconscious. That is actually true. Yes, the Shadow Wizard Money game idea I did say came to me in a dream. That was in a feverish moment of literally not sleeping good. Oh, I want to do it too. It's just I have been thinking about it lately. Sorry, I should say. By the way, this episode, like all our episodes, is brought to you by our wonderful and beautiful patrons. More information later, but some of them are in a live chat with us right now. I am talking to them. Support us on Patreon. You can join in on the live chat too. So, we're talking about a homebrew RPG I wanted to say, which is, I tentatively have titled Shadow Wizard Money Game because it came to me in a dream while that meme was really cool. I also want to do more with it, but I have been trying to rest my wrist, shoulder, elbow, etc. This week, especially over the past couple of days, because I do not do a good job of resting it earlier in the week, and I did rushedly type a lot of stuff out for Rain, our tabletop campaign, which we will talk about later. No, I can't go to the sauna. I can probably take hot showers easier, because I can just do it whenever over the weekend, because there's nobody else in the house to worry about. Which is probably what I'll do if it's still bothering me on Sunday. But yeah, I've made a conscious decision to rest all my stuff and wear my wrist base and whatnot. I did not rest earlier in the week, and we will talk about some of that later, but after all the Let's Talk FGO stuff. So, first, let's check in with everybody's favorite Kohai, Mesh.
Senpai, 起きてください.
Because, funnily enough, it is time to wake the fuck up, Senpai. Stop accessing your Dreamo-Vision. It's our regular segment for pro tips. Honestly, I do know that some people, hi, it's me, I'm some people, do like watch YouTube videos as kind of like their sleep aid. I don't usually listen to podcasts, especially new ones, because that my brain wants to hear what people say. But if you can go to sleep while listening to us while I project my studio voice, good for you, I guess.
Yay!
Because I'm loud. I'm loud when I'm doing the studio voice. In real life, I'm normally much quieter. Anyway, all of this I'm saying because the pro tip this week is very short. How short? OC2 is in mid-March. That's how short. That's how it's written.
Pretty short.
Now, what does that mean? Ordeal Call 2 is going to be in mid-March. They've announced it. They're starting the pre-release now. The pre-release campaign ends the 20th of March, so I'm reasonably certain that Ordeal Call 2 will hit before that part. Now, it's not our very next thing, but I did think they wanted to give you like a month to actually catch up. What that means we'll talk about in a second, because they're doing the Ordeal Call pre-release campaign. But if you're waiting for our next story release, that is going to be mid-March. So, probably do our pre-game for Ordeal Call 2 in a couple of weeks, at least a coupler, and move on from there. And I'm sure you will all be very happy to hear from us, because story chapter releases, that's the grammatical way to say that, are big, long, bunky episodes. Big, ballin' baby episode. Oh my god, sorry. Someone in the Patreon chat was just like, oh, they dropped the story on like week 3 of CBC. I mean, that's a good use of the third week, but yeah, oof. It's probably going to happen. Because we don't got space. Okay, but that's your pro tip. More on that later. Let's move down the line. It's basically a double dead week. Not really anything super new going on in JP, and most of the EN stuff is pre-release, though there's certainly plenty of that. But it does mean that there's no records and no evils. We're big chillin'. So we go straight to, did you finish your master missions? To complete your master missions this week, you need to defeat 3 lawful servants, defeat 3 king trait servants, defeat 3 servants with the Earth attribute. That's Earth. Sorry, I cut that off a little. Defeat 3 servants with the Yurt attribute. Defeat 15 archers or casters, defeat 15 lancers, riders, or berserkers, and defeat 15 sabers or assassins. That's enemies, not sabers. Not sabers? Servants. 2 of them aren't sabers. Hold on, I'm going to drink some water and slow my mouth down. Okay. Delicious water. You know, fun fact, you wouldn't have caught me saying that about water, but I suspect it's because I was mostly drinking cheap bottled or cheap tap water. Now we have a whole house filter, and I do drink the water straight out the tap, which comes straight out the well in the ground.
Well water. Enriched by earth. Purified.
Held by the earth. Cleansed by, not fire, but whatever's in the whole house filter. Also probably earth, technically. But that is your master missions. Which means, let's go to Skelograms. We got a couple of smaller ones for you, but we got a little news to catch up on. And like I said, after the mailbag break, we will be doing a pregame for White Day, despite the fact that they have not announced it yet. It has to be coming soon, mathematically. It's just like that. So over in JP, they have released a slew of rank ups for Valentine's over there. I'm not exactly sure why we're in this habit of waiting a week to do a batch of rank ups for events, but we do that, and so we have some. So, first of all, for regular Tomoe, her Star Absorb has been upgraded. It's now a 30 to 50% crit up buff for 3 turns on herself, and is a 20 to 30% battery. Normal Orion, aka Artemis, had Mind's Eye upgraded, so not only is it the evade and the crit buff, but also now it is a 10 to 20% arts up for 3 turns, and a 30 to 50% battery. So if you're willing to pop your evade, Orion can now jump straight to NP pretty easily. And it is technically a damage steroid. And we're still working on relatively vanilla charismas. Quetzalcoatl's charisma has now been buffed. It was already A+, so it was already ahead of the curve. So all they did was give it a 15 to 25 star bomb. But it does mean at max level, you are giving your whole party, 21% attack up for 3 turns and 25 stars to use. So, that's okay. That's alright. And I am certain that there will be more rank ups forthcoming. But that means to... Did they just upgrade or bust her up? I clicked on the wiki and the link was to their charisma. Let's see. Let me double check. It's his second skill? Was that her one? Let me check out this academy. Like I said, I went on the wiki and clicked the link through, but they are behind sometimes. Let me double check. Because I thought it was the one they said was Valentine's 2026. Okay, so is it her... Maybe it's her guts is buffed now. That's probably pretty good. Apply Guts, apply Buster Up. These are all targeted, by the way. 20-30% battery on a targeted ally. Increase charge level by 1 and reduce cooldown by 1. Ooh, that's a really good buff. It's even better. Well, that was her... I believe that skill is her, Wisdom of the Sun God skill. So, something they have been better about these targeted buffs is reducing her, reducing cooldowns. So yeah, so that's now her targetable Guts and Buster is also a targetable battery, an overcharge level, and a cooldown. She's pretty strong, but Ketz is just over a year 2, within the second year servant after first Annie. Sorry, scratching my chin. Okay, but after the rank up buffs, which, funny enough, stay tuned, we'll talk more about other ones upcoming in EN soon. But for now, not with any rank ups as far as I know, Ordeal Call 2 pre-release campaign starting the 17th and, as I said before, going until the 20th of March. So you have a very big strike zone for this. Number 1. Cumulative login bonus for foes and fruits. Fruits and froze. I do believe at least one of these is going to be get a little EXPs, get a little QP, but mostly it's foes and some gold apples. LB7 and Ordeal Call 1 related servants are going to get 0 AP interludes. That's not the right... Sorry, I'm going to the wrong website. It's hold on, let me grab the news article and I can read off what servants those are. But yes, it is 0 AP interludes for, as I said, servants who are related to Lost Belt 7 and Ordeal Call 1. That seems to be the theme, because we also have limited time missions, master missions, for MSQ Progress, which includes, in addition to general stuff, specifically clearing LB7 and Ordeal Call 1 for a boatload of St. Quartz.
Boatload.
And other things, like QP and more. So let's see. Yeah, it's, specifically for the interludes, it's Benny Enma, Kama, Prince of Landling, Nidacris, Gilderay, Saber. And then, yes, you can get a lot of Saint Quartz, quite a bit of Mana Prisms, and even a couple Rare Prisms, along with EXPs and 1 Crystallized Lore. Additionally, to make all that easier, 0 AP on Lost Belt 7 and Ordeal Call 1. I'm pretty sure they were already at quarter or half AP, like, forever anyway. So they're on 0. Leyline Stones are back. The Leyline Stones are going to be good until sometime in April 24th to be exact. So you get some for logging in, and you can buy more in the Rare Prism shop, which obviously, if you are trying to catch up on story, is good, but also is great because we're going to have new story in March, which, as you may know, is between February and April.
Oh.
So, that means that you'll be able to use the Leyline Stones in the new shit.
This is important.
It is. I mean, it is important. Like, I don't know if we've talked about it a lot, but we've talked about it a little. The Leyline Stones are such a great addition because you could Saint Quartz continue anyway, and many people, myself included, sometimes often did, despite that being, literally 99 cents a pop, plus tax in many jurisdictions.
I'm sorry, I'm just like, put in your 4 quarters to continue.
I mean, yeah, basically. They didn't really mean it to be like that to spend Saint Quartz to continue. I think it was just like kind of a thing that seemed right,
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, you've only got 1 premium currency. I guess you can spend it to refresh. So adding the Leyline Stones and giving you 3 command seals restoring, every day is like, makes it a lot easier to binge story content, complete it all in one go or back to back, and not have to spend a premium resource, because there are certainly some fights that you probably could do in 1 try, but would be a lot easier if you had a second try to figure it out. But we also have some summon banners. All of these are related to Ordeal Call 2, really. So we've got Saber Medusa, Duryodhana, Durga, Duryodhana, and Bhima, Duryodhana. It helps when you're the only 4-star to come out with a story release. Yeah, the old, I'll spend a ticket and get a or spend a Saint Quartz and I'll get a ticket from clearing. It's happened. But we have banners that will rotate through there, and as I said before, Ordeal Call 2 is expected in mid-March. So that means that we'll have a little bit, but we gotta, like I said, I will work out the pregame probably in a couple of weeks at this point, because it's the 20th right now, so our next recording date will be the 27th. I'm fairly certain White Day will have started by then, but I don't know which day it's going to start exactly, so we'll figure out like what our timescale is, and probably in a couple of weeks it'll be time. But maybe not, maybe it will be next week. I'll have to see like how soon they announce and run it. But that brings us to the end of the Skelograms.
Grams. That was quick, man. Jesus.
Yeah, I tried to faff it out a little, but it's important, but it is a light week on news. Like I said, the bigger chunk of the FGO stuff will be after Mailbag and the White Day pregame. And even that's not that long. But it's there because White Day will be soon. Not actual White Day, but the event.
Yeah. So, with that, we're going to move straight on into this week's Let's Talk FGO Mailbag, the segment where we read what you have to say and comment accordingly. This week we have five lovely comments, and we'll probably get through them fairly quick, unfortunately. But no time like the present, so we start at the top. This first one comes from Monster Girl Aficionado saying, "Dear Lucky Omega, no question this week. Just sending you good vibes, wah 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 wah, and wishing you well. Keep up the great work. I beat this guy 5 minutes to the reminder, and I'm like, heh, about it." Lucky was sick from like Tuesday to Thursday, and my sleep schedule is all sorts of work right now. So it has made me doing things at my regular times a little awful.
Sorry, it's slightly. No, fuck it. It's not actually that uncharitable of me. But my first thought when you said like Tuesday to Thursday was like, so Resident Evil 6 made you sick?
Might have.
Hey, dude, it's entertaining to watch the RE6 streams, I'm sure. They will be entertaining for you. Lucky and I are kind of entertained, even though we're getting our minds blown because the games are not that great.
I mean, I've talked about it. I think like the mechanics in combat's great, if a little annoying. It's just the story beats are killing me. Why is everything exploding? Why is there so much, what'd you call it? Deus Ex Diablo.
Yeah,
Couldn't this get possibly worse? Deus
Ex Machina. It's Diablos Ex Machina, the devil from the
Diablos.
machine.
Yes,
you just pop. Just imagine instead of gods being lowered down onto the stage, Satan just pops out of a trapdoor. Guess what? It got worse.
Pocket sand.
Except it's pocket sand, it's pocket BOW.
It is
Pocket Anthrax. No, and again, we are playing the Leon campaign, which is supposed to be the good one.
We're only on 1 of 4.
Yeah, I do believe I saw a great comment from somebody. I'm not sure exactly where I saw it. It might have been like a YouTube comment or something for something else or on Twitter, but it was like, reminding everybody RE6 is 4 horror movies in a trench coat. And it really is.
God, I think the only way they could, like, say fucking RE6 is to basically take RE6, chop it up into 4 individual games, and then develop them each separately. That's the only way you could do it.
Honestly, yeah. Like, that's...
You can call each one, Resident Evil 6 episode, Leon, Chris.
Honestly, that... they were probably a little too early in 2012, but you could have done episodic games, because they were being done, but I don't think they were super hot yet.
No, but like separate them out so all the systems and everything are, make every one its own contained experience.
Yeah, because Lucky, here's the freaky thing. If I'm guesstimating, based on how long I've seen other people play it, we're pretty close to being done with Leon's campaign. That each campaign should only be like 5 or 6 hours. So we are probably going to finish it next time we stream, and depending on how long it takes us, may start the next campaign. Or may just be like, fuck, man, I gotta go home. Sorry, man, my mom's calling me. Left some shit in the oven, man.
I'm gonna do Chris, because
I think it's supposed to be Chris next.
Yeah, like, I think that's how it goes, like, sequentially. Like, under Leon as Chris. Because that's what I did. I started Leon's and then went to Chris's. It'll be fine. We gotta get through them all eventually. I wanna rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah, well, we'll make it, and then it'll be, if we do decide to go straight into, like, RE7, that will be very funny. Because that game's real, chat. It's an honest-to-God fucking first-person horror movie. It was wild. I guess they did go in the tank for several years, Anyway, that was an RE6 tangent.
Oh, so, with that we move on. Next comes Surprise Fireball! Who says, Dear Lucky and Omega, no question this week, just wishing all my gacha games would stop having events all at the same time. Sending exactly 10 good vibes to the both of you and wishing you well. Unfortunately, fam, it's Valentine's season. All the events are happening right now. You kidding?
No, it's a perfect storm moment of
I just realized it's like a week after Valentine's and I didn't go raid my fucking local grocery store for discounted chocolate. I'm an idiot.
Because you were sick.
But, thank you for the 10 good vibes, and we shall move on. This next one comes from the Tyrant King, now having a chance to get a secret base. Fucking rad. Question. Hey guys, with older games being lost to history and companies bringing them back for a price is the norm now, how high would you pay for the old game? For example, FRLG is coming to the Switch as a standalone port for $20 each. FRLG.
Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green.
Oh. I mean, like, to me, it depends on how readily available were they on, like, previous things. Like, guys, I have paid like $120 to get Xenosaga Episode 3. Like, a PS2 game. Like, there are some games out there that come out and, are quote-unquote cult classics, but when they come out, no one fucking wanted them. And so, not a lot are made, and they all kind of just spread across the earth. So, if a company, like, wants to bring that back, especially with the state of game preservation being horrible back in the day, like trying to, like, get all that stuff and bring it over to modern costumes, that's a bit of work. So, God, yeah, no, anywhere from, ports?
Honestly?
Like, straight port?
Well, yeah, we were talking about a straight port. Someone in chat mentioned it, I was going to bring it up already. If you wanted to buy Fire Red and Leaf Green, the Game Boy Advance ports of Red and Blue, you would probably have to pay around $100+ now for the cart, and you would need a GBA that works.
Yeah. No. It's like, game scarcity is a thing, and I understand why people are like, oh, we gotta preserve the games and stuff, but it's like, this is one of the things, like me, I love my physical media. I really do. I honestly, truly do. I look at my shelf and it sparks joy. But this is one of the great things about how we have moved over to such digital distribution, that it's a lot easier to keep games in the loop than it was before. Like, and once we start hitting fucking, PS2, like, the PS2 generation and, like, before that, like, getting those games and putting them, like, taking, like, all their software off the hardware and making it compatible with modern systems, that's a pain in the dick. Like, Lucky doesn't know anything about programming and software or hardware compatibility, but I know that shit is a pain in the ass, like I'm doing with emulation and all that crazy stuff. Like,
and some people will be like, oh, it's really easy, you can emulate, it's a Google click away. Yeah, kind of, but you gotta troubleshoot, and, like, here's the thing, chat. Yes, emulation is important, being able to access media that you want to access when you can access it, not when other people want you to. I have a whole point about this that actually will come back later. It's very funny. We'll talk about it in What's Up Time. Unrelated to games, but is related to lost media and physical. Like, it's very good. Now, like, the PS2 Plus era, or even the like, disc-based media specifically, is easier to access because that's just CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays. I don't think they ever actually... I know the Xbox was an HD DVD player. I don't remember if they used literal HD DVDs for their games, though. That's probably tougher, because formatting. But they eventually switched to Blu-ray. But you still need, like, the emulation shell to get your ISO files and play them and stuff. And sometimes it is easy. Sometimes you just plug it in and go. Other times, it's not, and then you gotta troubleshoot, and if you don't have access to an official source, then you gotta roll with it. That's also why, if you are inclined to hoist the colors, shall we say, modern ports with compatibility in mind are also good, because even if you want to pay for legacy ports of products, they can also still be finicky. Watch any Mandalore Gaming video where he buys a game for like $1 off GOG, and still he has a 5-minute segment about how, by the way, you can run this on like a modern operating system, but it's a pain in the dick. Here's the 4 things you need to change and download this unofficial patch and blah, 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 right? Like, yeah. Emulators are a lot like that. If the software doesn't work for some reason, it's not a piece of software you bought and paid and like have expectations as a consumer about, so you gotta just suck it up and go with it. So having access to, at only $20, like, some people will go, "Oh, the greedy Nintendo," but it's like, no, $20 for a legacy port is pretty good.
Like, how much was it on release?
Oh my god, GBA games?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's like, what would those? Like, those would have been $40 or $50 in $2,000 more, maybe.
No, like, this is the thing that people like bugs me about people, is that people want to be like, "Oh, it's like such an old game and stuff." It's all like, yeah, games are expensive, if not more expensive back then.
Yeah, 80s and 90s prices were high.
No, like in the 80s and 90s, you'd be paying anywhere from like $60 to $120 for like a Super Nintendo game.
Like the when the economy was super cool around the year 2000, they got cheaper. They settled into like the 40, 50 price point. Inflation's pushed them up to 60, and then pushed us up to, you know, the current 70 to 80 range. Usually really 70, but also games sometimes go down in price because game developers have gotten, you know, better about that. That's also, Chad just reminding us, that's also something that game sellers used to do, is once they sold enough copies, they would keep the IP alive by doing, you know, Player's Choice, or I still have some of those red boxes, baby. PlayStation Greatest Hits. That meant that shit was $20. And, like, you can get sales now, but we don't permanently put things on sale ever. So, like, yeah, $20 is good. I know that some people are wondering why Nintendo didn't just bundle it with their, like, subscription online service, but these do seem to be, like, properly updated ports, including that you're going to be able to, like, get your Pokemon and put them in Pokemon Home now from these ports. And I think the retro subscriptions have shit like a lot of the ports of like PS2 games on PS5 have, which is you can do like fast forwarding and rewinding and shit, which is gonna like, chat, imagine you're playing a Pokemon game and you can rewind the built-in emulator to go back to an encounter. That's, I mean,
people are gonna be fast forwarding. People are gonna be fast forwarding for their shiny grind. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, you can go double X speed, and if the shiny doesn't spawn, you just rewind it to reset the variable. Like, that's crazy. No, I mean, that makes sense, though, because, like, that does, I think, if you can re-roll the RNG, I feel like that fundamentally breaks Pokemon. Not even for, like, shiny hunting, but just re-roll 50/50s. Oh, I didn't hit my guillotine 30%, let me rewind time. Flip coins forever, you know, like, and assuming that you are going to access the multiplayer features still, then that would probably be problematic. I don't know how their you know, NSO, the Nintendo Switch Online stuff, works with any, if you're supposed to play multiplayers and stuff. It's a little goofy sometimes, I think. So, yeah, like, them selling it to you as a standalone so you don't have to do it, I think, you know, I think it's because XD and Coliseum are, like, you can't, those are slightly non-normal Pokemon games. I don't think you can, like, put them in the normal Pokemon environment as easily. Gen 2 and Gen 1 and 2 are on the Virtual Console and head into the emulation benefits. Yeah, it makes sense. So, like, no, like, honestly, like I said, $20 is pretty reasonable. I know there's, to talk about this in a different example, right? People have been complaining that after the Metal Gear Solid Volume 2 announcement that on a couple of storefronts, Konami has completely removed Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 4. You could still buy Metal Gear Solid 4 on the like PSN streaming port, and could have, if you had a working PSP, could have gone through the PSN store to buy Peace Walker, like digitally, and those have been removed from the storefronts. Though I do know that some Metal Gear Solid games also have like gone off and on storefronts because of licensing issues with like footage and stuff used in them. So it's not always a 1-to-1. I do think it is mostly because they are planning on releasing the next Master Collection volume. But if it also removes some of their licensing costs, I'm not shocked. Like, on the one hand, a little annoying to do that, literally months ahead of time. It's not going to be for like 6 months until they do it. But like, man, I don't know. It's like, yeah, it kind of sucks that they took Metal Gear Solid 4 off PSN Store or whatever, but also like, were you buying Metal Gear Solid 3 on PSN Store? Like, that means either you had a working PS3, at which point, at any point, you could have bought it digitally or just bought the disc, or it's the streaming version, which, like, from what I understand, those streamed PSN versions are really hit or miss. Like, it really depends on how good your internet is to remote stream games to your console. And unfortunately, chat, you're not going to like to hear this, but it's the same for the PSP. If you still had a working PSP, you should have bought Peace Walker and played it already, man. That shit's old.
Like, he does actually have Peace Walker and stuff. I just haven't played it yet, because I was waiting.
I mean, I'm gonna be... having played the HD version of Peace Walker, I don't know how you play that shit on the PSP. The controls are weird on when they remap them to the analog sticks and stuff. It's a little goofy, but they're gonna preserve the co-op stuff for Peace Walker HD. So, we'll be back in August. But yeah, no, it's I get it, but also it's like you can't expect them to keep the door open forever. At some point, if you care about the thing, you would have bought it already.
No, it's true. And that's like going back to my original point. Like, no, Lucky's completely fine with shelling out like stupid amounts of money for, like original versions of old games. Because, as every day we go on, they get rare. God, I bet there's like, you can go some dumping grounds and find some old fucking gems in there if you like truly want to get in there. I wouldn't recommend it though, but people just throwing things away, people destroying things. That's all like, those numbers are never going to get bigger. They're only going to get smaller. So, spending more money to, preserve a piece of gaming legacy on your own, I think is important. It's like, but if they could bring it over digitally, this should totally be like a port should totally be between $20 to $30. Because they're bringing something back, they have people work on it, and they're redoing licensing and distribution. That costs money, y'all. It always costs money. It doesn't cost
it's
money.
True. Also, it never doesn't cost money. But also, like, it's one of those things where, like, how do I phrase this? Nintendo, I mean, they're looking great right now, but they are the kings of, their own walled garden type shit. We've done a lot with the Switch 2 to make the hardware catch up. But it isn't like you're gonna be going on a Steam sale, right? Like, it's on the Switch now, baby. Now, that's not to say that somebody won't, because people are very unhinged about Nintendo emulation specifically. I'm not gonna say that people aren't gonna rip these new emulator ports, these standalones, and fucking put them on PC, because people are freaks.
People are
But,
freaks.
like, there is a different expectation, and while Nintendo has always been strong on the sell you back your old games, they are also, what's the word for it, very particular about when and how they do it, right? Look at Lucky and me. We're out here and we're still like, hey, guys, you never did put, Wind Waker or Twilight Princess HD on the Switch 1. I really hope you don't put it only on the Switch 2, because that is going to hurt my bank account a lot.
That is going to hurt my bank account a lot.
Like, luckily, those should probably be cross-compatible because they worked on a fucking Wii U, so they can run on a Switch 1. They probably would just run better on Switch 2. But it's like one of those things where, like, absolutely they have the power to do that, but they're not. Why? They don't feel like it. They got other stuff going on. Nintendo doesn't feel compelled to, like, constantly have their library in access. And that does suck sometimes, but when they're offering you the opportunity, that's one of those things that you should go, oh, they don't usually do this. I would, I want to be willing to get in on this, because if you're not willing to get in on it, you are not incentivizing them to do it. You know? That would be nice to do. So, like, I would really, really love for Nintendo to get more, like, modern and like, properly a la carte on their shit. That would also, like, seriously put me in a mood to consider the Switch 2 much more rapidly, like, figuring out how that would work. Because, like, it would be so nice if the Switch 2 was exactly like a modern console, and I could, like, boot up the Nintendo Switch store for almost anything and go, oh shit, they've got the Game Boy Advanced version of Fire Red and Leaf Green. Well, I mean, the Switch 1's battery life was dog shit. I'd buy another battery pack. Batteries is expensive. But, like, that's the thing, right? Because, like I can't do that on well, it's much more powerful. But I can do that on PlayStation, right? I've bought all 3 of the Sly games and played them on stream from PSN, and they are encased in little emulators. You can do that with Jak and Daxter, with Daxter from the PSP, and Nintendo doesn't do that as much. So, like, it's cool that they do it, and I don't actually know, like, I've been a strong proponent that, like, in the technical term, piracy is not theft. You do not go somewhere and remove something, right? You are illicitly copying a thing that you're not supposed to be copying. And I don't actually know, because there's a lot of smoke and fire about it, I don't actually know how much piracy cuts into everybody's bottom line. There have been some promos out of, like, the anime and especially the manga industry in Japan lately trying to be, like, anti-piracy, but they've landed really flat because the examples of, like, hey, here's some official releases you should support are, like, shit they're not officially supporting in English. And so it's like, oh yeah, no, we'd love to fucking officially support that series. Can I do that? No. You know? What's the thing Gabe always says? Piracy is a service problem?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know actually how much piracy impacts the economic factor, because I do know that, like, not every copy pirated is a lost sale, because I know people who are, like, die-hard, lazy fucks, anti-capitalist hacks who will be like, I will never pay money for another video game in my life. If I cannot pirate it, I will not play it. Like, those people exist. And a lot of people who say that those people exist, but they don't exist, and they still buy the games. So, like I said, I don't actually know how much piracy affects the bottom line, but refusing to engage in a behavior because you're like, oh, I don't want Nintendo to sell me this game for $20. It's like, well, then Nintendo won't sell you that game for $20. They'll stop. And that's, well, in some ways worse. If they don't, if you don't have the opportunity to be sold to it all. But yeah, no, $20 seems great. Like, I think I paid $10 for each Sly game, I believe. I think they're $9.99 on PSN. But I think you could debate 20, especially for big name titles, and especially if they're actually like I said, if you can actually connect these to, like, Pokemon Home and shit, like, put them in the ecosystem, that's really interesting. I don't know for sure if that's how they work, but that's what I've heard. So that would be slurping my water.
Hydrate. My water is empty. I just realized. I'll fill it up in a minute.
Yeah, I'm almost done. We'll need to take a breaksy.
Yep. So, this next one comes from The Journey Will Soon Continue. Boy, howdy it will. But they say, howdy, Lucky and Meg. Hope y'all having a good week and slowly getting ready for OC2. Question, with a longer time have passed now, I'd like to ask you what were y'all's favorite Valentines from your servants this year? Let's see here. Like, absolute favorites? Processing.
Like, Tiamat was really funny, but...
It was really funny. Summer Bargus was good too, but...
yeah, honestly, all of the Summer Tamlin gang.
Draco's was pretty great too. I think I'm gonna go with Draco's just before the sheer audacity of it. The fucking... I don't really actually know what they're fucking called, but... the several heads of Draco, kidnap you and whisk you away and be all like, soon your time will come. It was all a ploy to actually have Draco give you her fucking chocolate, and I'm just all like, Draco, you've been bamboozled. No, I'm gonna say it's Draco's.
Lacusta's was kind of almost feels like a coda on that because hers is very similar.
I think Lacusta's is like a follow-up on that, because if I remember correctly, Lacusta says that she was able to do something because she gave Draco the code to your room, and then you got kidnapped by the beast. So,
and then kind of like Lacusta's is going into that simulator space to follow up on it because she's trying to get the best materials to give Nero a chocolate, but also here you can have some stuff too.
It was actually chocolate, so I appreciate it. I was half expecting it to be a mushroom, like an actual mushroom, a mushroom that tastes like chocolate.
Probably exists. I think the summer ones were good. There were a lot of, they're voiced, but there were a lot of really good ones. Honestly, like for like entertainment and like feeling value, Miko Priestess was very strong because she does the whole like 3 versions thing and then goes, what the fuck is my problem? That'll never work. And then Castori is just sitting there eating some of her leftover chocolate and just like, just mix them together, dumbass. How long have you been here? Please tell me you haven't been here 5 minutes. I don't know, a while. But yeah, I think Ash/Summer Morgan's is probably, out of the more serious ones, my favorite because it does that. It also does the 3 times thing, but ends with you, Morgan's trying to get you back for Summer. Get up all on your beers. Shout out to the epilogue for Summer Suzuka's. The completely unnecessary segment that they probably only did because they got Chiwa Saito in to do Summer Chloe.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. Dangerous lady. The all caps. Oh, it's very...
Summer Chloe was good. That's because I just love Chiwa Sato noises.
That one is like, I'm just imagining her getting the script and being like, okay, so you're gonna make me voice acting. I'm a dude disguised as a dude, pretending to be another dude.
But... No, I think that's enough. So, let us move on. This next one comes from Agent 418, who says, "Hello, Lucky Omega. Have a good weekend." Thank you. I hope to.
Yep. Sorry, that's me fighting a burp. I thumbs it up. All right, before we do the free talk and the pregame, let's take a little intermission and refill our waters.
Hydrate! Woo!
We're back. All right. Close that tab. Successfully flopped. We leave the mailbag zone and enter Chaldea Free Talk, because we're going to talk about White Day. The Chaldea's Boys Collection event happens every year, roughly.
Yeah.
And it is actually an event. There will be free quests. That's how you know it's real. It's not just a daily check-in. There's actually free quests and stuff. So there's time gates, there's free quests, there's a costume to unlock. I think it's technically a separate event because I did not see it in the wiki page for Charlemagne's Montjoy. So I believe it will probably be like a login campaign or something to actually get your free CBC CE this year. But we'll keep an eye on that. Like I said, they haven't announced it yet, so I'm sure we'll get more on that later. But there will be one of those CEs probably free in this mess up as well. The wiki also did not specify what the clearance was, so I'm pretty sure it's a Fuyuki clear. But I will click on it again. Let's see. Starting, schedule. Oh, actually, I completely forgot to do that in my notes. I will still bring it up now. Something I forgot to write down because it's just a cosmetic thing, but it's still pretty fun. We are doing another little My Room thing for a limited time during this event. Depending on the time of day, the background scene of your My Room will change.
Okay.
And in addition to that, they've got a couple of features, which are effectively like photo mode. So you can set your servants, and you can do a limited amount of changing their expressions. And if you hit a button, it basically takes a screen cap that's a fake Polaroid. But also, you can put the master in with your My Room servant for this limited time and take a photo.
That's cute.
Yeah, so like just a cute little thing they occasionally do during these seasonals. But yeah, there's some cosmetic stuff to futz around with. And like I said, I forgot to go back and put that in the end of my show notes, so I will bring it up now. But yes, if there's no clearance mentioned, it would probably be a Fuyuki clear. Again, we'll hopefully find out soon, because, again, there's only, like 3 days left in Valentine's. Everybody log into FGO right now, by the way. But we're going to be going on, because, first of all, I'm here to tell you that, while I'm not super familiar with it, I am pretty sure, based on my reading, that this thing's going to be a whole plot reference to the play Cyrano de Bergerac. So, that'll be fun. And, of course, as I mentioned, since we have time gates, this means it's going to be pretty simple. You're going to have 7 acts of story, a prologue, and an epilogue. So you start, 7 acts, end. This will net you a total of 7 Saint Quartz, a Grail, and a Special Event CE. The Special Event CE is called Cyrano de Bergerac. And, by the way, this is the one that I believe is one of a couple of jokes out there, but this is where some of the cross-dressing Mailmaster jokes come from, because this is a CE that has versions based on what your selected master gender is. This is the male one, and for comparison, here's the one with the female master, so everybody follows along here. This does not appear to do, bonus damage or anything during the event. It's a CE that is slightly customized and will offer you, the first time you enter the battlefield, you get 10 stars, 12 stars if it's MLB, and your quick performance is increased by 10%. It is a 4-star CE. But you'll get 1 copy in the event story. And like I said, you'll get some Saint Quartz and a Grail. And yes, this is a Grail. Now, again, because this is probably aiming for a Fujiki clear, enemies are pretty mild as a result. Almost all of them are 50k HP or less. There are a couple of fights where you get a little bigger. You gotta fight, like, say, 2 100k HP archers in Act 5. There's a couple of fake-out fights, where you only have to break 1 bar, or you just, have to survive a couple of turns, stuff like that. The usual. Several of these fights are going to be solo or otherwise NPC only. Usually your primary servants when this happens will be the Dawn and Charlemagne. The Dawn. Yes, it's Charlemagne's the headliner, but he's bringing several of the Trom crew with him, including Don Quixote de la Mancha. So, get ready for some of that. And yes, by the way, I do mean not only are these moments where you'll have to either use the NPC or your own version of the Dawn and Charlemagne, but also shit like no command seals, no mystic codes. Just gotta let it ride. The one battle which is a little complex is going to be the final boss in Act 7. The epilogue is no battles. That is a ruler. You're going to have to fight them twice. The first time's a fake out. You only have to break 1 bar. The real one is going to be 105, 123. Sorry, just Spaceballs in my head. 4, 5. My god, that's exactly the combination of my luggage. No, 123, 123, and then 134k HP, so 3 total HP bars. They will summon ads. You do not need to defeat the ads to continue. They should have a chance to basically re-up a buff constantly. They proc it automatically when the fight starts, and then whenever it drops off, they have a chance to reset it, which means all of the members of the enemy team heal 2k HP per turn and get a crit up buff, crit chance up. But as a demerit, also gives your frontliners an attack boost. Later bars, the boss will inflict curse on attack, and when you break their bars, you can get stuff like them singling out one of your units and stunning them, only 1 unit. And also, when you break into their last HP bar specifically, they will cleanse all debuffs from themselves. They also do some dumb stuff with, like, setting themselves to, like, 100% damage resistance, and then the story removes that instantly. Kind of turns it around on them, so instead you'll have an opportunity to do more damage, so you'll have a burst phase, basically. Which is good, because they are still a ruler, and I didn't see any shit about changing the class affinities. And your free quests are going to be pretty simple. These are all either monoclass or with berserkers mixed in. Down to the one where they do a funny one where it's assassins and berserkers mixed, and the boss is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, so he's both. But these are all pretty normal stuff going on. They top out at around 100k HP for the normal ones. Your high-level nodes are, you're going to have a 312 with like 230k, 230,000 HP. And of course, the final node, the 90 plus, is going to be 131. The final enemy is 800k. That class is, I forgot to write that down too. So I get to editorialize a little. Lancer. So yeah, you got a 200k HP Lancer on the front, normal enemies in the middle for 3, and then 800k. Oh my, sorry, I just read who it is. Chat, the subtitle for the boss of the epilogue cleared, Super 90 Plus node is Opera, Leave It to Me, and they're a Lancer with 800,000 HP. Can you guess who it is? It's Liz. It's a big Liz.
As is only good as proper.
Well, she is a dragon, so that might make some difference on traits. The one before that, the one I mentioned before, which is 312, that is a mix of archers and berserkers. So hopefully you can find a slot, because while there's no points or anything to farm, there is currency to farm, which will get you some nice things. This is a very stocked shop. We will talk about that in just a second. First, if you want to be clearing both story and free quests, you are going to get some bonuses for this. There are some bonus servants. Charlemagne, of course, as the headliner, gets plus 100% damage and plus 50% bond. Roland, the Dawn. Edison, and I believe normal Astolfo. Just normal Rider Astolfo. Let me double check that. Yep, that's normal Rider Astolfo. Anyway, those 4 get plus 50% damage and plus 30% bond. Bradamante and Yang Guifei just get the damage, not the bond. And then all other servants who are male or gender, and also both commas, just get 20% bond up, no damage up. So if there's any bond farming you want to do for some units, there's plenty of room for it. I believe Kama is included in White Day because Kama keeps reminding us that before all this, they were a male god.
I'm still waiting for the male Kama servant or costume.
I mean, we got fucking Demeter. I would not be shocked. Let Redrop cook. Kama is very popular. We could see it. But yes, so those are your bonus servants. And, as I mentioned, since this has free quests, there's going to be some stuff in the store. There's all your normal stuff, like a variety of EXPs, a variety of foes, some leafs, 3 crystallized lores, the other 4 event CEs, so if you want to MLB your CE copy, you just gotta farm for currency, because you get 1 from main story clear, and many, many delicious materials. Materials like hero proofs, night medals, horseshoes, scale bottles, small scales, silver crowns, twilight blades, void dust, giant rings, gears, snake gems, obsidian knives, those are always in demand, comet shards, spiritrons, aka god balls, bicorn horns, reverse scale of the dragon, and 4 statues. It's Saberlancer, Caster, Berserker statues.
Excuse me.
Also, as usual, you can convert the highest level currency, the gold rank currency, into QP at the end. So, definitely worth investing in. I know that even though my Valentines are all sorted, I'm still hitting the nodes in that to get more currency to try and clear out the shop, because there's some good shit in there.
Good shit.
So I hope we can do similar on White Day. And this event should launch with a couple of rank ups, or they'll be about a week later. Hopefully one of these is right away, because it's for Charlemagne. But skill buff for Charlemagne's invincible skill should be able to give him more Heroic King stacks. That was his skill that, like, it's a targetable invincible, and he gets debuffed if he targets himself. But it also should give him the ability to gain more Heroic King stacks, which help out his NP and stuff. And NP buff for Bradamante. So more damage, and also gives herself a 3-turn crit buff. Let me actually check for how much. Okay, own critical damage for 30% for 3 turns. And since she is kind of quick-focused, that will be handy. Handy! Yeah, so the new buff for Charlemagne is his Path of the King previously gave him 5 turns of when he got hit. He gets a Heroic King stack for his NP. Now it's, in addition to that one, he also has 5 turns of when he lands a critical hit, he gets a stack. So that should make augmenting his NP with more stacks easier, because he's got one of those deals bonus damage to enemies where you get 10% times the number of stacks you have to a maximum of 12. So should make it a little easier, a little more consistent to farm some of them stacks. And like Valentine's, White Day is supposed to be the opposite, even if the events are not always quite the same, with brand new servants. Usually they like to alternate, costumes and new servants. But like Valentine's, there will be a lot of raid-ups. The primary one is going to be running basically all throughout the event, is going to be Charlemagne and Don Quixote as the 4-star, and all the new CBC CEs. They will also have a rolling raid-up, only for, a limited number of days, but a raid-up for every permanent or story-locked male servant, the literal inverse of Valentine's. Those will also be with the new CBC. And if you don't remember, that's going to be, because I think it's in release order, it's going to be Ku Alter, Tesla, Li Shuen, Bima, Zhang Yu, Napoleon, Achilles, Karna, Vlad 3, Enkidu, Miyamoto no Tametomo, Ozymandias, Arjuna, Tagawang, Nemo, and Dioscuri. Oh, and some of these are dual raid-ups, because some of these guys are actually, are all these permanent? Is Tagawang permanent? I thought he was limited, but he might be permanent. I don't see a star on the wiki. Wow, there's more permanents than I thought. But the story-locked guys are going to be solo raid-ups, and then the permanents are going to be duos. And obviously, Dioscuri is available for both Valentine's and for White Day, because there's, one male, one female twin. Additionally, in terms of straight-up limited servants, there will be a summon campaign number 2, which will be Saber Astolfo and 4-star Roland, if you need to catch up on your Rolands. And then a quote-unquote summon campaign 3, but that will actually be multiple banners. What banners? Well, it's going to be everybody who's been a White Day servant previously. So that will include a couple of permanents who are not in that previous raid-up, because it's going to be raid-ups for Takasugi Shinsaku, Proto-Arthur, Arjuna Alter, Amakusa Shiro, Moriarty, Dantes, Odysseus, and El Meloy. These will also come with raid-ups for previous CBC CEs also, again, if you want to complete your collections. So yeah, that's our kind of rerun banners. Also, since this is EN, There will absolutely be, like, one more free quest support banner in, like, the last week, probably. I don't know exactly who that would be. Bradamante or Yang, maybe? Yang Guifei? Because they're not, as ladies are not normally in the banner rotation. If I had to guess, because one of the big nodes is Archer, it would probably be out of those two Bradamante. I don't know. They could, because the highest ranked one is Lancer, because it's supposed to be done with Charlemagne. They could come up with another Saber to do it, but I don't know what limited AoE Saber they could do that you wouldn't already have a crack. Arthur's going to be on the back end too. But I think for like every single event they've done since last anniversary, and maybe even before then, we've had a support banner which has had a bonus raid up at the end. So no, it wouldn't be Melusine, like I said, because remember the last node is Lancers, so you want a Saber because you're supposed to do it with Charlemagne. The one before that is Archers because you're supposed to do it with Don Quixote. But that means they could put in a Bradamante. I mean, Sigurd would work. I mean, Sigurd would be really good because it's Liz. I should probably make sure to set that up myself. Can I get it? It's what? It's 1, 2, 1. No, 1, 3, 1. Sorry, I'm planning free quests in my head. I'm like, can I juice Charlie enough to clear a 3-wave and then have room left over to run Sigurd? I can try. Sigurd would be a good fit, but like I said, the free quest support stuff is not always logical. But yeah, that is about it. You'll enjoy some macarons.
Macarons.
No, seriously, that's one of the drops.
Macarons are tasty.
It's macarons, candies of valor, and they're like little hard candies. And then it's funny, like I assume they have them as well, but like it's can I copy the? It says I'll copy. Let me see if I can paste it. Yeah, so it's literally frick yes grandma candy. And then they've got something that I think is, like, mostly Japanese, which is it's the little, like, jelly pouches you slurp.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, energy jelly.
Yeah.
Mills, you can slurp.
Which is, at least translated, jelly of conviction. And then I'll post the image for the macarons. They're just macarons.
Macarons!
The macaron of philanthropy. Ooh. Actually, this did answer a question, me running that down, because that took me to the wiki's storage space for... event items and icons, and they do have the CBC special coupon. So it says present box. So yeah, well you'll be delivered your CE exchange ticket via just present box as a technically separate login, not actually awarded for a quest. But as I said, that is about where we is.
Okie doke.
And yeah, I think with Mailbag that does bring us basically to the end of Free Talk, and thus the end of Let's Talk FGO. We're a little over an hour. Slightly shorter episode, but I think the back half will also be a little shorter because, as Lucky has said, he was a little sick this week.
I was.
And I haven't been sick, but I have been trying the past couple of days to rest my typing hand, which, unfortunately, my, arm which types is also my arm which mouses, which clicks. So I've been going a little lighter on PC games and chilling. But I think I can use that as a decent segue to the... Yeah, light week every now and then is not the worst. We started a little late because we're both doing some household stuff. I said before, parents are out, so that means I do have to make sure to maintain the domicile myself. Feed the cats, check in on them, empty the dishwasher. You are willing to empty your own dishwasher, aren't you, Chad? You better be. You put the stuff in the dishwasher too. I know it took me a few years to get a hold of that one, but you put them in the dishwasher. Oof, no dishwasher. But I had a segue earlier, which also is what I've been spending a majority of my time this week doing. Besides my usual trying to keep up on the loop on a few big long video drops, which is, hey, chat, remember how earlier I talked about, physical media and media going away and stuff like that? So, fun fact. It's in my note in the abbreviated form, but as of the time you're listening to this, basically, She-Ra Princesses of Power, which was a DreamWorks animation for Netflix, Netflix exclusively licensed it, is leaving Netflix. It leaves today, so basically if you're listening to this and you didn't watch it, too bad. You've missed. And obviously this is slightly, confusing or concerning because as of this moment, there are no plans to have it be streamed anywhere else. And yeah, it was pretty well received, but unfortunately it is that thing we talked about with like licensing fees, right? Is technically because Netflix does not own it outright, they purchase the exclusive streaming rights, they would have to keep paying the rights and royalties forever, and services and studios don't like to do that. I personally couldn't say that, like, I wouldn't want to, keep stuff that's popular and has our branding on it in rotation, but, it is like that sometimes. So there's no news if it's going to appear somewhere else. I do know that, like we mentioned last week, there's a shitload of shows that were used to be, Cartoon Network productions that were, like, all taken off, like, HBO Max because their licensing and royalties expired are going on Tubi. So I don't know. But, also talking about the physical release, this is also a shame because, fun fact, the last 2 seasons of the show, 4 and 5, never got a physical release, ever. So, now that depending on when exactly Netflix decides it's the next day, it'll either be like 30 minutes or a couple of hours from now, those last 2 seasons aren't available anywhere. They will just be in limbo, which is kind of wild. Like I said, people in chat were kind of like, oh, that show was kind of popular. So yeah, no, it's leaving Netflix. Seen a lot about it, going off and on Twitter and stuff like that. And it has, as far as we know, no future home and no physical, other than the first 3 seasons, which I do myself already own. Also, I think it was only DVD. Like, I don't even think they did a Blu-ray for, like, HD, which, again, a little wild. But I've gone to bat for this show in the past. I'm sure you could find episodes of either Let's Talk with the dual format or the old What's Up format, because the first season of the show was, like, 2018. I think I only watched it all after all 5 seasons were out. But I've gone to bat to the show before. It's pretty good. And I can say that confidently because what I've been doing this week is rewatching all of it before it left. Which I accomplished literally today, right before the show started.
Ew.
That's why, like, when you lucky were like, oh, well, I still gotta, it'll be a little bit, I still got a few things to do. I'm like, okay, I can take care of some other stuff and chill. So yeah, I was literally watching the finale, like, right before that. So yeah, no. So I ran through the entire thing in kind of this, because it's one of those shows that I was always like, yeah, I should watch that again. It's been a couple of years, I think, since I watched it all the way through. I should actually sit down and watch it all the way through again. And then, of course, when you're presented with, oh, it's going away, and, like, you will not be able to access, you will have to hoist the colors, as we say, in order to get access to this. That's a great incentive to do it. And so I will once again go to bat for this show. It's still good. It's really interesting because I feel like there were several shows in that block of, like, the mid to late 2010s that were either reimaginings of children's properties or were ostensibly aimed at kids, but were in a very mature way. Gosh, actually, I'm trying to think. Adventure Time was on for a long time. When did that start? Was that early 2010s? Am I crazy? Try to let me know. But, like, the show She-Ra never goes above the, like, Y7 TV rating. I do believe that since the show has come out, at least one of the creators have said that if they were officially rated PG and could get away with one F-bomb, they would have had Glimmer say it, because apparently her voice actress always cussed whenever she flubbed a line. But 2010, yeah, so early 2010s, kind of like that. But there were several shows like that where, like, and people will talk about this, where, like, you can show Adventure Time to your kids pretty comfortably once they can handle, moderately human concepts, like, dying, harm, etc. But also, it's got some freaky, heavier-hitting stuff that resonates with older audience. And like I said, She-Ra's kind of cut from that same cloth along with a lot of other shows. It is still, like I said, fundamentally Y7. There's no cussing. There's a little bit of kissing. There is still, like, drawing blood, but despite the fact that, She-Ra wields a sword of power, she never cleaves in twain anybody with blood. Mostly she resorts to smacking people with the flat of the sword. But people do get fucked up occasionally, and characters definitely, like, die. It does that thing that children's cartoons do where, like, people can get trapped in fates that are arguably worse than death, but because they don't die horribly, like, officially on screen, the censor board doesn't care. Like, there's a flashback to how our main character, Adora's adoptive mother, Shadow Weaver, became Shadow Weaver by forming an Eldritch contract. She just sucks a guy into a black void and he's dead. Like, she conjures a massive physical shadow around his head and he just gets sucked into it with, like, crunching noises. Ugh. Yeah, no, it's gross. It's fucked up. We don't like it. But there's no blood, so it's TVY7, everybody. Fantasy violence. But like I said, the show is really good, and, like, it's got very complex character arc stuff that really starts to show in the later seasons. They grow their pace a little. And I do gotta say that it's never quite like a Monster of the Week show. It really should be 4 13-episode seasons, but season 2 and 3 did that Netflix thing that they did a couple of times. This happened with Voltron as well and a couple of other animated series where they split it into 2 seasons that were like 6 and 7 episodes. But I literally watched the whole thing in a week. It's just, today is the last day it'll be on Netflix. So I will once again remind you that it was pretty cool. And hopefully will be cool again somewhere. I think the fandom has mostly given up hope on the epilogue movie. That was teased when the show ended a few years ago, but didn't go anywhere. And again, it kind of seems like if Netflix isn't cutting the checks to keep it on Netflix, then we probably are not funding that. But it was a pretty cool show. I've always wanted to have more people watch it. I have, like I said, the first 3 seasons, which again is effectively the first 2 seasons, on the DVDs. But it's, well written. It does have good action. The soundtrack is phenomenal. And also, they really use that whole Netflix money well. The artistry of the show is really good. Does a lot of striking stuff with, like, colors and backgrounds. So it's, like, real worth watching. And it is, a shame that it is going out to air. And that is kind of loops back into that conversation we had earlier about, like, getting access to your old media, right? Because, obviously, for video games, physical was kind of the way of the default for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And so you can still access physicals, but if they're out of print, they're going to be expensive. Well, with media like TV, even if it's for streaming services, sometimes you don't always get a full physical imprint. There are loads of old shows that are out of circulation that are straight up lost media. And there are even modern shows in the streaming era where they never got around to a full physical, release of it. And so, like I said, in mere minutes, the last 2 seasons of the show, which are the best 2 seasons, like, it really is a show that has, like, an arc where it gets, like, better and better until it hits a climax, and then it pieces out, honestly, a little too fast. It's one of those conclusions which, like, has an and the adventure continues ending, but does kind of tie up everything neatly in a bow. Like I said, they could have gone for, like, an epilogue movie, but didn't. We'll hope. We'll hold on hope. I'm sure all the voice actors loved it and would hopefully be down to come back. But, like, that's why you do gotta support, and that is why, like, as much as buying digital is convenient, that's why I do think that, like, Lucky is right, and when we talk about this, and, like, sometimes you do gotta buy physical. It is better. It's there.
They can never take these games away from me.
That is, I think, what actually, like, how, it's an old interview, but how, when interviewed about it, like, Christopher Nolan talks about it, where he's like, yeah, nobody can, like, break, or the company anyway, somebody could still hypothetically, but the studio can't break into your house and, steal your Blu-rays, right? That's not going to happen. So, physical is good. It's good to have an option. Streaming is obviously convenient, and I do, like, greatly appreciate it to just queue up some stuff, especially for, like, some big-ass TV shows, that would be a pain in the ass to buy all on. God knows I bought Eureka 7 on DVD the stupid way, which is I bought them 1 volume at a time, where it's, like, it's a 52-episode anime, and it's, like, each disc is, like, 4 or 5 episodes, so I own a lot of them. 12? I think it's 12, if I can count the numerals correctly. For Eureka 7 AO, that was the Blu-ray zone, so I bought, just 2-volume Blu-rays because they were 2 production seasons.
No, I'm looking up at my Fate Stay Night DVD collection, and that's 6 boxes. That's probably 4 episodes a fucking disc.
Yeah, no. People in the patron chat are reading along. Code Geass, another example, that was like 52 total episodes, I think, between the 2 seasons. Yu Yu Hakusho is an old-ass running show. Like, it used to be shittier. Usually you can get a Blu-ray bundle, and like, you can get boxes bundled together. Like I said, because it's just 2 13-episode seasons broken up, it was pretty easy to fit the first 2 seasons of She-Ra in 1 DVD set. Also make it pretty easier for them to fit 4 and 5 in a second DVD set, but they didn't do that yet, so hopefully the internet will yell at me if it happens. But that's like why you should watch shows on streaming you want to watch when you want to watch them, because that gives watch numbers. That tells the company that owns the streaming service that you want that. But sometimes they don't care, so you gotta keep your eyes peeled and support the medium when you can. And then when you can't support, that's when it's... I'm joking. Because that's the thing people say of, like, it's always morally correct to pirate Nintendo games. No, it's not. You're not doing it about morals and ethics, but it is one of those things which is just like, I think Gabe was kind of correct when he said that piracy is a service problem, which is like, if the media is accessible to the people, they won't pirate it. That's why, like, music piracy really changed its tone like, once iTunes existed, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the record industry did a lot of dumb stuff to try and push back against the Napster and Kazaa era. Lots of promos and ads that were not, like, good. Look up the Metallica anti-piracy ad if you've never seen it before. It's very bad. No, we're not stealing, we're just sharing. Oh, cool, if I just slip this Napster logo on, we share stuff, slap it on your PC, that's mine now, slap it on your girlfriend, and it's like, no, that's not how Napster works. Stop trying to do the you'd never download a car. It's goofy. And people have always known it's goofy. But, like, this is why you should, support stuff and be out there. I don't actually think for a lot of people it is a moral or ethical dilemma. Either if you either morally object or you don't. But you should support stuff when you have a chance to support it. And if they won't give you access to it, then the only thing to do is to rely on internet freaks, which is a thing we've been doing for many years. Honestly, people were relying on your local freak for even pre-internet era. Everybody remember bootleg VHS? It was real.
I remember that shit. I remember that. God, there used to be a place back when I was a kid called Anime Cafe that was just a little corner shop that was nothing but bootleg VHS of anime. This was like late 90s.
Of course, because that's the anime licensing was still the wild fucking west in the late 90s, which sounds crazy to say, but it's true.
Yeah.
And, like, at the same time, because the business angle was not so consolidated, they probably could, quote-unquote, get away with it, because how the fuck were the people in Japan gonna find out about the bootlegs? Unless you're a fucking narc. You're not a narc, chat. That's true, by the way. That's something you should be like, not a narc. But yeah, so I just wanted to pop out here and say, give a salute to your Princess of Power was pretty cool. It's no longer on Netflix, and that is what I've been doing a chunk of my week doing, is speedrunning.
Mm-hmm. Speedrunning!
So, check your local torrent server at this stage. Oh. Actually, I'm sure there's plenty of shady streaming sites as well for lots of things, if you want to be out there for stuff. Usually, though, I gotta say this, talking about a service problem, usually the shady streaming sites are, like, pretty butt.
Yeah, if you're gonna pirate responsibly.
Pick a site that's not going to try and give you 40 bits of spyware and also broadcasts better than 480p. And, much like with emulation, if you don't feel like engaging in piracy, you don't have to. That is, like, actually, like, just like it's, everybody goes, oh, it's real easy to just torrent everything. And it's like, yeah, kind of, but also not. Remember somebody talking about trying to get access to some old Godzilla films because they're in Eastern Europe, so they can't watch on normal streaming services because, licensing is a country-by-country minefield. And they're just like, shit, I can't find any cedars. Can somebody help me out? It's like, yeah, that's how it is sometimes. Also, goddamn, 19 discs. I should check how many discs are in my Edoka 7 volumes. That's the thing I should also say. I also bring up that because it's not just that they're in the separate volumes, but I bought them on the volume-by-volume basis, not the big-ass box set. So they take up a lot of shelf space. But they're here, and so I can, if I wanted to, watch that series anytime. But one thing I did spend a little bit of time doing, if we don't mind to check in, was I think it's for Steam Next Fest. Our pals, our buddies, the team at Fireshine and Area Games, Far Far West, have a new demo. I believe it's probably another limited time offer. We are pitching it though as a demo and not a playtest.
Mm-hmm.
But because I am signed up for their newsletter, I did get access to the demo a day early, and I used that day. And have not gone back, sadly, because of the thing with my wrist and my clicky hand. I probably should not have done it the day early and rested my wrist some more, but, I don't usually get to do things early. But they emailed me a Steam code and I fed it in, so they are running a new demo now. It is available to everyone at this point, if you want to check it out. It is a separate download from their previous playtests, but when I fired it up, all my progress was saved, and also it unlocked some challenges that they rejiggered. So some stats were counted correctly on my end. Which is good, because there was some bugged in the last playtest. I don't have a lot else to say about it. They did change up a couple of systems that I actually poked around with. First is unlocking new weapons is no longer purely level-based.
Okay.
They now have a blueprints system. You need to collect 8 blueprints in the field, and then you can buy it from the merchant. But if you continue to collect blueprints, you will improve your glory level, which will increase your overall effectiveness with that gun.
Okay.
They also rebalanced what mods you can get, so now weapons have even more stats you can upgrade.
Okay.
So for instance, they rejiggered my long shot to make the default fire rate slower, but balanced it out with a little more power, a little more aim by default. But also it had added to, in addition to the 4 stats, a draw speed stat, so how fast you swap to those weapons. But when I checked out the boomerang, that in addition to draw speed also had straight up upgrades for range thrown and hang time. So it seems like they are doing more unique variables for weapons you can upgrade. They did also add 1 new weapon so far, the Winchester. I did collect enough blueprints to unlock it, but that's when I stopped playing the playtest, so I haven't had really time to try it out much. But it seems kind of like they wanted to fulfill the old role the Longshot had, where it is a long-range, powerful weapon that has a strong rate of fire. But because it doesn't have a scope, it's not like crazy long range, but it is more powerful than the quad cylinder. They did, I believe you knew they were planning on this, but they did nerf camper for this demo.
Yeah, I knew that.
It is now a 50% chance per shot to not consume a shot. So with something like the quad cylinder or the minigun, you can still probably save a shitload of ammo flipping coins constantly.
Mega, I just remember, it's just like, I got camper, like, real early. I'm like, I am never taking this off. Ever.
Oh no, it was crazy good. I mean, I eventually got camper for my long shot and was just like, I don't need to move. Scope in, click heads. Like, and you got that key part of the build early and maximized it, and you could do some dumb shit with just the quad cylinder. So, like, no, it was definitely, like, needed.
When they were talking about people broke the game, they were talking about me. Lucky broke the game. I was literally melting bosses. I'm just gonna throw a heal at my feet and not move.
Yeah, just stand still, kill bosses, delete them, do great stuff. But on the flip side, they did buff a few things. They made it so rescue now revives allies.
That is nice.
So you can do a ranged revive, which is good if you're going that healing route. They also that one lightning spell is still like leap or spring. Still not sure how well that one is, but they changed teleport to swap. So now instead of throwing a card and teleporting to that location, you instantly exchange places with an enemy and explode on your destination.
Explode.
So it does actually seem like it gets you out of trouble better, because it is like instantly you go, enemy, I'm there, I explode. It does, much like rescue, also refund you if there, or drain, refund you if there's no target.
Okay.
So it's just like, oh, there's no enemy there. It also refunds you if you try and swap with a character you can't swap with, like a boss. So I don't think it displaces like bosses or mini bosses, but it's a good way to like grab ads and like whoop. So that's I think a slight step in making Alec a little more useful. At the time the demo like shows where the jungle and what do they call it? Volcano, I think maybe.
Ooh.
Like it shows where those maps are going to be. They're not available yet, but it kind of shows them in the list. I believe they added a secret quest to the far north. I have not seen it yet, but it's out there. And they rebalanced a couple of things. They redistributed some stuff. They changed the skin in the hub area. Now it's all springtime with flowers.
Yeah.
And all in all, it looks to be another cute little demo. I'd like to, like I said, try and poke it a little bit to try out the Winchester some more, the lever action, because it's just called that. And maybe see a few other things. Did still feel like gaining EXP on secondary weapons is still a little slow. But like I said, they did add some new buffs to them, so that was a fun time, and that's what I spent a little bit of my time on. And since you did mention it also in your mailbag prompt, if you're down for it, I believe what you have been spending most of your sick time doing is playing more Star Sector.
Yeah, pretty much. I also got some Neo 3 time in there, but no, like... I think I've finally gotten, like, Star Sector to work how, like, I want to on the difficulty curve. It's still... There's still some things that annoy me, mostly fleet deployment points in combat. I actually did some research and found out that the game is actually weighted toward the enemy getting more DP per engagement, which I'm assuming is to account for human ingenuity. Because I have definitely seen some posts online and communities talking about, oh yeah, no, if you just do this, this, and this, you can melt everything, no matter the DP. I'm all like, oh, this is why. This is why I just can't have big old fuck off fleets. Because otherwise people break the game, and then it's no longer a challenge, and then people complain that, the game is boring. I'm like, cool, great. But I'm finally getting the experience that I want to. Like, honestly, I've been playing like this one save file for like maybe the past week. I said ever since I installed mods and got a start that I liked, and it has been a journey, and I love it so much. Like, just thinking back of all the stuff that happened in here, I'm like, man, this could be just a space epic in its own right. Because I guess let me give you a timeline here. So, the setting of Star Sector is basically we are stuck in a place called the Perseus Sector, post apocalypse. The domain, Earth's human civilization beforehand has fucking collapsed, and we've had 2 conflicts with AI that has completely fucked things over. This has led the rise to several factions in game. You have the Hegemony, which claim themselves to be the heirs of the domain and are a completely, militaristic, totalitarian government that hates AI. You have Tritech, who are the basically corporate tech sector of the game, who are completely, textbook, corporate and by the book, but are still pro AI, just not publicly. You have the Perseus League, which is basically a collection of individual states set up against the hegemony, except while they say to respect the individuality of it, that individuality is also comes with paying your fucking league dues to, the older and more experienced members of the league. You have Dictac, which is a very small faction, but they control most of the fuel production in the sector and are very jealous of keeping it that way. Along with a with an almost empirical dictatorship, complete with secret police and fucking all that stuff. You have the Ludic Church, which has viewed all the shit that's been happening in the sector as that is God's way of saying don't mess with this stuff and try to live more simple and clean lives without over relying on technology. The joke is they're Luddites. They're literally Luddites.
They're Luddites plus church. I get it.
Yeah. They're based off the works of a prophet named Lud, but believe what you will. And then you have the Ludic Path, which are basically are Luddites, but completely and utterly fanatical and terrorist. They decide that they're
arm.
Oh no, the militant arm of the Ludic Path are called the Knights of Lud, which are basically their defense force, and they are more of a chivalric order than a chivalric order. The Ludic Path are not actually affiliated with the Ludic Church. They just wear the name. Most of the Ludic Church actually want nothing to do with the Ludic Path. But the Ludic Path believes that, we need to destroy all this technology by force, because, otherwise we are calling forth demons from beyond men's kin. We'll get back to that later.
It's the Butlerian
and also,
God.
Also pirates, but, it's space. There's gonna be pirates. There's pirates fucking everywhere. So, be me. Be lucky. I'm dropped into this system. I have only, 3 ships, no planets, no connections. I'm just well, shit, I need to make cash. So, I started with what's known as phase ships, which are basically, they don't have shields like most shields, but they have the ability to pop in and out of physical space. It's actually very fun. And it also makes them very good for stealth missions. So, I get started in this game, and I start doing very easy courier jobs. A lot of smuggling, dropping spy sats, and, running blockades to get supplies on. I do this for a little while, and some factions start taking note of this. I decide to sign up with Tritech, because Tritech are the one that develop phase ships, and I decide, I want more phase ships. I like being stealthy and sneaky. So I get a commission with Tritech, and they start paying me. They start me super low on the ladder. I think it's only agent. Agent, you only get 5k a month, but whatever works. And they start giving you access to more ships. So I start building up my fleet. Start taking more jobs. I'm starting, I get enough ships I can, start, fighting pirates. And, take on a few low-level bounties. I'm slowly working my way up the ranks, and I start getting jobs to want to get out more out of the core area. Because in Star Sector, the middle of the map is basically called the core sector, where all the major factions hang out, and then everything outside of that is basically free roaming space. There is no data out there. You basically have to go out there and explore it yourself. So I start getting out there and exploring and trying to figure out what's out there. In the course of this exploring, I discover a hidden faction called the Remnant AI, which is basically the leftover machines from, I think it was from the second collapse, which was one of the AI wars, which were basically when a bunch of Tritech's AIs went rogue.
Because, by the way, Chad, I do want to remind everybody that literally every science fiction thought experiment series that's ever talked about thinking machines has considered the possibility, hey, what if they stop working for us?
It's so dumb. And after a few tense encounters with them, I discovered that one of the Remnant's AIs want to contact me and have me work for them. And I'm just like, sure, are you paying well? And they're like, yes. Turns out that they are trying to establish a system of coexistence with everyone and trying to live in a more delicate balance. They do not wish to be persecuted for being AI, but all of the Remnant faction are not of the same mind. So you start doing work for them, and you start to realize that things aren't maybe not all they seem in the sector. As you start going up, as I went more up in rank, I started doing what was the story quest, in which I find a data core and I return it to a guy, and he wants me to and I return it to a scientist, and that scientist wants me to go way out into what is basically what do they call it, the abyss, to go check something out.
By the way, I posted a map of the galaxy, the Milky Way. So the Perseus arm is one of the major arms in the Milky Way, one of the big bars. We live in a little transit. That's right, we live in a backwater called Orion Cygnus, which jumps between the Sagittarius arm and the Perseus arm. So I would guess that this star sector is probably set further up or further down the Perseus arm. But since it is an arm in a spiral galaxy, yes, that would mean that there are areas of low density space between arms. Because that's how galaxies work, because space is scary.
Space is scary.
Hell yeah, it is.
So I hook up with the Galactic Academy, for lack of a better word. They want me to start doing jobs for them to, do science and stuff. And as I said, one of the missions sends me into the Abyss, where I come to learn out there are actual factual demons out there. Oh god, hang on. What was the image I took? Because I took it when I was having a bad time.
Also, not true, Legendary. The ocean is big. Space is bigger and darker.
Well, here, let me post this thing that I fought.
Ah! God, fuck me. I don't like that. Nameless, shrouded tendril. This is some fucking Stellaris ass shit.
Yeah, no. You discover there's actual fucking demons out there, and they don't like you. But that wasn't the only threat that I discover out there in the abyss. I make it to an old planet where I find an ancient-ass warship that has been, slowly adrift around the planet, and you learn of something that it calls the threat, which seems to be another AI faction that uses, I don't want to necessarily say a cognito hazard, problems, because it's not quite, but they operate on a different understanding of fabrication than, the Remnant AI. I can't say that. But I'm just like, oh, okay. That's bad. So I grab this ship, go cross the abyss once over, go back to the academy, and the guy is all like, none of that shit actually happened. It's not real, it's fake, you used Photoshop, and I'm just like, bro, I have a fucking ancient-ass warship out there from there. And he's just like, not real. I'm just like,
my brother in space, I brought you the ageless dreadnought from the Forever War long ago. It's right here.
It is literally the ancient dreadnought from the Forever War long ago.
That's the other, next to the space demons, that's the other big space trope is space is big, time is forever. So it's this ship's been adrift for, countless aeons that since your species was young. And it's just like, just chilling. And it's just like,
And me, lucky going, they're not gonna fucking believe me. And me, that's where I do the mental gymnastics, all like, if they're not gonna prepare for the fucking war between demons and threat, I will prepare for the war between demons and threat. And it's around this point where me, working my way up the Tritech corporate ladder, am finally allowed to establish colonies on my own. Because I'm using what's called the Nextland mod, which turns Star Sector much more into a 4X game with with more growth and invasions and stuff. If you can start with your own colony and whatnot, or you can start a part of a faction or stuff. Like I said, I did what is called a free start, which I belong to no faction. I have no colony. Like I said, then I joined it. But Tritech will only let me have up to 3 colonies on my own. If I want more than that, I have to basically declare independence and then fight them off to maintain my independence. So I'm like, okay, at some point, I'm going to have to betray Tritech if I want to actually grow my faction to something that's ready to confront whatever threats out there. So I'm like...
And so you begin planning the rebellion. This game's great.
So I begin planning the rebellion. I spend a lot of time scouting out the surrounding sectors, trying to find, a good set of plans. And in the discovery of this, I discover a mega structure called a Royal Hypershunt, which is an ancient ass machine, which basically takes the power of a sun and will beam it to other sectors, if you get things ever sub. And I'm just like, yes, infinite power. I can use this. Wow,
you're literally climbing the Cardiff scale type shit of oh yeah, I'm gonna jump from using all the power output of a planet to using all the power output of a star, which I'm going to beam through hyperspace. Hyperspace is real, by the way, chat.
Yes, hyperspace is real. And so I'm like, okay. So I investigate the area around the hypershunt, and just because it tickled me, I did not get because one of the things you can do in the game is you can survey a planet and then you can sell that data for money. All the survey data I did around the area, I didn't sell. I kept it. So no one would know about this area I'm looking in. I found a world pretty close to the hypershunt, and I started getting set up. It was very slow. Like I said, it's just out there is just colony building, but I'm leaning more towards, military bent and whatnot. And I'm just like, okay, I just need to play it cool, because once I hit all 3, I get all 3 colonies set up. I'll make all my plans, and then I'll throw off the shackles and stuff. And at that point, I was playing the long game. While playing that long game, though, the hegemony got real fucking angry at Tritech and started invading them hardcore. And I was just like, wait. They can't do that. If they do that, they'll become way too fucking strong that I won't be able to deal with them later. So even though I am planning a rebellion against Tritech, I had to basically do a 180 and pour all my resources into fighting back the homogeny to maintain the more delicate power balance, so that so things did not get overwhelmed. Even though it would have been easier for me to overthrow Tritech, to cast off Tritech if they had it, I would have had a much stronger homogeny in there. And as we talked about, the hegemony is homogeny. Hegemony.
Yeah,
I don't know how to pronounce hegemony. The hegemony. Will make right. And the thing is, the hegemony is super anti-AI, super anti-AI. If they catch you with AI cores on your ship, they will impound them. If you were an independent, one of the colony crises you have, if you're using AI, they'll send AI inspectors to try and fuck you up. They just do it. They're just it's all they'll be all according to the law, that is illegal. Give them up or be a bitch. And I'm just all I have it right here. This ain't your space. And they're like, all of this is my space. I'm on. Then, this is, I just flip the switch that says power up weapons.
Yeah, that's the hegemony. They are the faction that in the tutorials for even vanilla Star Sector, you are taught about leaving your transponder code on, because if your code is off, the hegemony gets mad. But if it's on, they will also pull you over and stop you anyway and ask to search your cargo.
Yeah.
Usually, which, unless you are, I think, a member of the faction, your options are either get searched or tactical solutions. It's either suck it up or start a pissing match with lasers.
And so,
laser piss.
And so I got involved in a big war between Tritech and Homogeny, trying to keep the Homogeny from absorbing all of Tritech. Like, I had to fight off invasions, I had to, intercept blockades and raids, and one time they actually got through. This was actually the one that disturbed me the most. They actually got one of the Tritech core worlds, which has something which is called a Star Citadel on it, which is like the strongest space station you can have. I don't know how they got through it, and I don't know how, but I did know that I would not be able to beat that thing in a one-on-one fight. So I basically did a million.
Also kind of like, that's a different version of like freaky existential crisis of like, you've got space demons, ancient AI from like, the previous cycles, and then while you're minding your own business, the hegemony just takes over an invincible fortress, and you're just like, how do they do that?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I don't know. I still don't know. I was off surveying more worlds when it happened. I literally got the pop-up and saw like, what was it? Kulan, which is, that's a military outpost, by the way. So it had all the military production for Tritech, which is why it was so damn important. Well, it wasn't all of it, but it was one of the big ones. It had a Star Citadel. Was just like, has been taken over. And I was just like, wait, what? And like I said, it's a Star Citadel that is literally one of them, like, is unimpenetrable fortress. I don't know how to build fleets well enough or had enough ships at the time because I was running a phase fleet. I like phase ships. Phase ships are a little are annoying little fuckers, but unfortunately they don't have shields. They rely on phase, and when they're in phase, they can't shoot anything. So I'm at the Star Citadel, and I'm just like, God, what am I gonna do? And I'm just like, they're saying that Kulan was still in the state of rebellion. I was like, I'm gonna help the rebellion. So I started smuggling with my phase ship, like, guns, men, supplies down into the black market, which aids the rebellion, and then started blockading the relief fleets that were to aid in quashing the rebellion on there, and was able to get Kulan to flip without ever actually having to engage the Star Citadel. And I was like, oh, thank God. After that, we were able to even things out back to the more normal things. All the factions were slowly starting to expand out from the core sectors, but no one was moving in my direction, which was my plan. So we got that evened out. I made it to what they call it, senior executive, which I think is the highest in the commission rating, which lets me have 3 planets. I got my 3 planets got up and running. I built all their industries. I was able to find two cryo vessels, where basically, normally in Star Sector, you can only get up to a planet size of 6, because just of how many people. If you find cryo ships, each cryo ship will let you get a planet up to 7, which, increases the amount of, like, money and product it can generate. I found 2 cryo ships, and I put them on my first 2 planets, got them up to 7, and which was interesting is when you do that, you get a buff that says, I can't remember what it is, but basically the majority of your population are people from before the collapse. And so it's like you have a mostly, domain population. I'm just like, and I'm here thinking, wait, I got 2 planets with mostly domain people. Like, fuck the hegemony. I'm the fucking heir of the fucking domain. And with that thought, I declared independence with my 3 colonies. Everyone got mad at me. I mean, everyone. So Tritech got mad at me because I declared independence. They don't like that. I was a big moneymaker at that time. I was pulling in 1 million credits with 3 colonies. A piece. No, not piece, like a total. Even with all my expenses and stuff. Homogeny just realized I was using a fuck ton of a fuck ton of AI cores, because I was. All my alpha cores all my administrators were alpha cores, and basically, if I could put an AI core on in an industry, I did. An industry or structure, I did. It's like, I think like on the screen for like the Crisis thing, it was like plus 70 AI use. Both the Perseus League and Tritech also took an interest in me because I was exporting so much shit. Perseus League basically wants you to join the league so you can pay 20% of your fucking colony income to them every month, and they will bully you until you do so. And Tritech was basically in the name of corporate espionage trying to undercut your commodities, so you would not necessarily undercut them. The Ludic Path also did not like the fact that I was using so much AI. And the Dictac Empire did not like that I was making a lot of fuel. So I declare independence, and everyone saw me as a fucking slice of pie to take. And so I had to start fighting them off. Also, pirates. The pirate one was easy. I literally went to the pirate lord, threw 1,000,000 credits in her face, and said, "I'm cool. Don't fuck with me." And she was all like, "Heh." Yes. I then dealt with Tritech, both of them. Basically by hitting up their industry and whatnot, I said, "Don't fuck with me. I will fucking kill you." And there's all like, this man seems to have a great potential for economic leadership. We should make a deal with him. And they did. Dick Tech, I have not stopped yet. But I did get them off my back for a little while. They were trying to stun gun in, so I basically sent in my fleet, destroyed one of their home fleets, destroyed a station, stole the thing that makes them make fuel super good, and, bombed one of their worlds. It was a tactical bombing, not a saturation bombing. Saturation bombing's bad. It was tactical bombing. They came up to me and was like, "Yeah, that fleet that attacked you, that was, a mistake. That would be, like, real cool if, our thing that was missing would, reappear again." I gave it back to them.
Did they turn around and try and fuck with you again immediately after?
Not immediately after.
Okay, so that it sounds like that kind of, like, reset some of the faction values, and then they slowly remembered, "Oh yeah, that guy was pissing me off."
Yes. But this gave me enough time to deal with the Perseus League by basically how they try to fuck with you is they try to blockade you and, bully you into fucking up your trade. Well, I just, destroyed all their blockades and then went to their guy and be all like, "Is this how it's gonna be?" Yes. Right now in the game, I'm still dealing with Homogeny and the Ludic Path. The Ludic Path, I don't think you can actually get rid of. No matter what, they're like annoying little insects. You can like disrupt them, but they don't disappear.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it makes sense if they're like a like technically separate, splinter group. Who's they're based around they're based around an ethos, a religious belief, and they are fanatics. That's the kind of thing that you can't just eradicate easily without eliminating literally everyone who subscribes to their belief, which is hard because there are going to be more guys who are going to pick it up later.
Mm-hmm.
So they're always around. And honestly, as you are doing a pretty good job of like spinning this, galaxy spanning narrative, and I'm like, oh yeah, this game is pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's like a Stellaris run, but you're not time accelerating the same way Stellaris does, right? Like you're not.
Yeah.
You were literally until recently capped to 3 colonies, kind of a thing. Like it's the scale is much more localized, which is cool. But obviously, a lot of hearing this kind of puts my game design brain tingling in the back, and I'm like, okay, yeah. So like some of these factions are like never gonna make peace with you if you're doing certain things because the game is probably designed to like still do something to bother you at some point, like. I feel like this sort of game is not going to let you declare ultimate victory by winning forever, basically.
Oh no, like if we're actually talking about the 4x factor of this game, I lost this game at like before 3 cycles were up, 3 years. Like I'm not entirely sure how you're supposed to do it, but like the Ludic Church got a fucking diplomatic victory like before 3 years were up.
Yeah.
So I was just like, no, like I said, I'm playing this for my personal narrative, which like I said, I'm really enjoying. Like I said, like right now, like, because here's the fun fact. When you become your own faction, as you were, you're not like, subsidized under someone else. You get, faction slots and faction cards and stuff. One of the ones that I picked, for my, faction was AI legalization, which basically means that every, colony that has A on it gets benefits. It also means that the, hegemony and the Ludic Church and the Ludic Path permanently hate you. They are set to -100 constantly. No matter how many times they send a ceasefire, it will not matter. They will just go back to -100. So those guys are my enemies until the end of time, or until one of us are destroyed. And the interesting fact, though, after I declared my independence and we got the deal going on, Tritech actually entered a formal alliance with me.
Oh, so you tweaked their nose, but they liked you enough after that to still be like, we're mad at you, but we gotta respect you.
No,
You're
remember,
a hell of
no,
a
this is
businessman.
yeah, no, like I said, they're corporate business. They're like, this person is pro AI, makes a fuck ton of money, and is in pretty tight. Because, like I said,
also isn't afraid to engage in a little tactical orbital bombing.
No, and so I'm super fucking close with Tritech now. It's like they send fleets to help patrol my system. I send things to help them out. It's like it's actually really kind of crazy. I love it. It's like it's just one of those weird ass things of all yesterday's enemies and oppressors, today's friends and alliance. Like God, it's really cool. Like right now, has anything else super fucking crazy happened?
I mean, this is I will say this in general. This is the thing about simulation type games like this. Because while you can assume direct control of a single ship, there's a lot of stuff that you just kind of plot course, click buttons, go here, go here. You make decisions, and then the computer kind of figures out the in-between steps, right? That is the thing about these sorts of simulation games is the kind of organic storytelling. This is why we know Loth. He's playing Dwarf Fortress. That's because that's another one of those weird fiddly micromanaging simulation games. It's really fucking weird, but assuming you don't instantly die, you don't lose in the first 5 minutes. So thinking about the old Traveler RPG where you could roll randomly on tables, and if you were picking stupid options, you could die in character creation. But assuming you don't die in character creation type shit, you will start to build interesting and unique narratives.
It's super true. Oh shit, they're invading Cortana? God damn it. Defense fleet. By the way, I named all my colonies after AI. All of them so far. I got 6.
That's cute, yeah.
I have Shodan, Eddie, Cortana, Hal, GLaDOS, and Sal. Yeah. Oh, also in my discovery and dealing with the remnants, I discovered that there is a super AI faction called the Omega, which the remnant AI treats as a divine figure, and they're fucking terrifying. I'm not entirely sure how they work. They are kind of fractal horrors. They're literally entities that when you destroy them, they break into smaller pieces and keep attacking you.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite. I love when they do that.
I don't. They're hard. They have some badass weapons though. Tritech was a little mad at me when I discovered a plot of their secret ship design, and I stole it and I didn't give it back. But they're also kind of happy that I also said fuck you to everyone else who wanted the ship. It's a little bit of a secret, but his class is called the Ziggurats. Its original name was Xenophorica. I changed the name to Ziggy Stardust. I love this ship. I put all the fucking alien AI weapons on it. It fucking slaps. I also had to help the remnants deal with a rogue AI that was gonna, terrorist bomb some human settlements. We couldn't have that. Oh god, no, I actually feel if I was to actually sit down and write down my adventures and put more character drama and perspective in, this could actually be a really, really good space epic of just
that is
starting
the
small.
The original format of Let's Plays. The writing after action reports and stuff, and there are some out there that are very strong. That's how speaking of Dwarf Fortress, that's how the legend of Koganu-san Boat Murdered got started. It's just it was what do you call it, a legacy game. The old school ASCII days of Dwarf Fortress, you couldn't do actual multiplayer, so they did a hot seat game. You would play an in-game year and then send the save file to somebody on the forums and they'd play again, and they kind of summarized their time playing in a narrative. And there's some neat entertainment built that way. And like I said, you're telling it very grippingly. I have played enough of the game to know that there's some parts of that were boring. There were some times where you were just cruising through hyperspace. Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of times where I'm just hunting bounties. I'm just flying between planets. I'm just smuggling supply sets. There was a lot of downtime where I'm just in hyperspace gathering supplies and stuff. But it was all every part was a piece of my my grand plan in the grand adventure, and I'm just no, it's great. I kind of wish in Star Sector there was sort of the the end game crisis kind of system that sometimes you see in Stellaris, where the threat or
whatever the fucking demons are will actually, try to fucking, slap your shit on after a while. But
yeah,
like
Stellaris as picks a endgame crisis out of several for you, and will, if you don't crash and burn before that, like if you make it towards the late game, they will launch something for you to solve that everybody has to deal with.
Yeah.
And usually you die. With the exception of, it's one of the DLCs, I think it's the one literally called Nemesis, but one of them has an ending which is Become the Crisis, which is just, you decide your civilization needs to be plugged into the shroud, into the giant psychic space internet, and you're just like, hey, guess what? I'm the psychic space internet now. Die! Mm-hmm. There's a couple now where you can become the Crisis. That's cute. I like that. Because that is also like the I feel like the ultimate fun fantasy goal of those is you do the reverse, which is like you solve the crisis because you conquered the whole galaxy, or you just go to all your neighbors and go, hey guys, the Shroud demons or the self-replicating nanobots are trying to eat us all. The space dragon has awoken, and the great worm in the Dead Star at the heart of the universe is gonna eat our brains. What if we became bros and kicked his ass? And then you Predator handshake. Hey guys, the space zombies are rising. What do we do about this? It's a neat, very classic sci-fi trope that I like a lot. And we talked about this with like you were talking the other day about running into some units called Helldivers and like something. It's like that's the thing I actually really like about sci-fi is you do get these cute little like references to other stories, because a lot of stories have been done before, but they're neat, so we can, if you're writing science fiction, you can reference them. It's cool.
It's so cool. So I've been having a lot of fun with Star Sector, and I'll probably continue to. I also did put in a bit of Neo 3 time as well. I am getting further on that. The bosses are getting harder, and I'm not getting as much stronger. I'm doing a lot of grinding mostly on that. So just keep on keeping on.
Yeah, the Marathon Server Slam I think doesn't start until next Thursday. So I am clearing my schedule for that, by the way. My schedule, it's cleared. Escape will make me God, as they say. They're doing a lot of ramp up, and it seems pretty neato. So we'll be getting in there. But I'll probably try and play some more Star Sector. I had that problem where, like I said, I started to find my groove, and then I had to roll back a couple of saves, to be like, whoop, too much groove, killed by 4,000 pirates, as you do. So like that always makes you feel a little dead inside when you got to do that, and because I have been resting my mouse arm, I have not gone back into it. Mm-hmm. But you guys talking about it always makes me be like, yeah, Star Sector. Mm. And honestly, it's much like thinking about stuff for my urban fantasy homebrew. It keeps me floating with ideas for Space Truckers, which is another like my sort of working class spaceman RPG homebrew as well. Like, probably wouldn't get to the scale that you can go in Star Sector, but I do think managing fleets and colonies would probably be like a equivalent of an endgame thing, right? Like an endgame money sink to be like, well, if you actually plot this out or do crazy enough shit to be made of money, or your goal is to discover uninhabited, habitable planets and settle them, you can eventually do that after you do a lot of space trucking.
Space trucking!
It's fun. And, we've talked about this before in, Space Trucker game design. I've decided after talking with you guys to be a little careful about the space magic bullshit, not actually doing psionics or magic stuff. But, there's definitely a lot of sci-fi weird stuff that I like to reference, and if that is your sort of workaday job, because that would be a workaday job in space, would be to go through new systems and go through them, that would be a thing you'd work towards, and you may discover space weird shit.
Yeah, space weird shit is good.
Because there's more things in heaven and earth, Horatio. And that's definitely, I haven't, coded, the game's still way far from being written right now. That's one of my projects is still to write, but it's not written, so, we're still working on fundamental mechanics, but that is the room I've left for, xenotech, exotic alien technology, and leftover precursor caches and shit that lets you do new weird things. I went on this whole essay about how stealth in space doesn't work like you think it does, but you can still be sneaky in space, because, again, I personally refute the idea that a human on a spaceship monitor could be 100% attentive to all 100% of space at all times. Space is big. We talk about this. There's a lot of distance involved, but there's also a lot of lag involved. technically we have large telescopes on Earth that could, scan every area of visible space that is inside our solar system in like 4 hours. And yeah, if there was a spaceship-type object going full burn in our solar system, we'd probably catch them. But imagine, logistically, if there's a shitload of heat signatures, what if you're in a populated system where there's a lot of people in space? You'd have a lot of things to sort through, and you'd have to play, ID game of like, okay, so there's this guy in space. Where the fuck did he come from? He came from over there. Who is he? What does he do? Space does not allow for stealth as we think of it, like video game stealth without exotic technology, where you could do some weird shit. But also, the idea that you couldn't be sneaky in space is like telling me you can't be, sneaky in real life because radars and eyeballs exist. And also, you could do the Mass Effect thing where you use gravitics to suck all your emissions into a heat sink. But when it gets too hot, you gotta let it cool. You gotta chill. That'll be an action chill. But yeah, I like a lot of weird space stuff, and you can integrate that into tangible rewards for players by giving them access to shit that is, experimental or impossible for them, which they can either install on their ship, or if they're like, we don't need to do that, you can sell it for money.
Money!
We like money, buddy. But then also that lets you do, higher level challenges. Like, I think, space combat should be sufficiently nail-biting that if you're in a small, 4-man light haul freighter, you're gonna be terrified to pick a fight with, a single pirate corvette with fighter escort. Like, that'll be a nail-biter. But, if you jump up to, be in you're in your own, light cargo cruiser, long-range ship, you'd be like, that's nothing to me. That's an engagement I would win easily, or at least win easily enough that the pirate now has to think about whether or not he wants to do that. You can scale it up to be like, all right, well, guess what? Now you're fighting, the weird self-replicating mining robots in the deep core, which is also a Stellaris enemy that a trope I like. I don't know if we're going to actually go for space demons. You can get pretty esoteric with space stuff, but also some of that is a little tonally inconsistent. Like, Stellaris, I think, is loose enough because it's kind of a kitchen sink. You can get away with stuff like the space whales that'll fucking eat your ships, and of course, the dragon.
The dragon.
I love the dragon. The dragon's rad. I love that that's a fucking origin you can pick. Yeah, my home system just has a space dragon. He's just a chill. Also, yes, no, that is actually, technically they're both percentile, but no, we're asking in chat, is my 4X game compatible? No, they're not. I mean, I could write them to be compatible, but they are not meant to be compatible in my mind, because the level you would be at in Space Truckers if you would make a colony would be 4 gajillion progress levels ahead in 4X. 4Explorer is called 4Explorer because it's a pun, not because it's actually a literal 4X game at the start. It's meant to simulate, Stranded in Space with nothing but your space spanner games, like Subnautica, arguably like, Factorio and Satisfactory, like the kind of thing they're going for. But it's in Space Truckers, if you got to the colony phase, you would have to have enough money to back it up. You would probably be vomiting all kinds of prefab buildings and shops on it, right? Also, you'd own a spaceship. That is actually like a Space Truckers caveat, much like the way that the original Edge of the Empire rules is supposed to start, is by default, you have to have a spaceship. You can't space truck if you have no truck in space. It's one of those facts of life. You'll have some kind of system for either a point buy or just a flat out budget where you get to adjust which one you can pick. And there'll be different options. Do you get big and slow but lots of cargo space? Do you get, small and fast but not a lot of cargo space if you're going to do passenger missions or run info on servers? Kind of actually default Unmighted Star Sector lets you pick kind of your starting fleet comp a little and kind of your starting skills, something like that. There'd be the options for the team to pick, including if you wanted to go you could go the bounty hunting route. Don't know if any of my players would want to bite that one,
Bite which one?
The bounty hunting. Because that is a classic, but also, it can be demanding to go out there and have to shoot people for money.
I was definitely thinking my character in Space Truckers would get this is what I wanted to do. We'd get the small but fast ship, and we do a lot of smuggling and blockade running and stuff.
That's tense in its own way, but obviously very, very manageable. And certainly, I feel like the rules so far I've worked out for actually flying in space definitely give you some room to that. Kind of like a recurring trope I kept coming back to in writing the section on piloting maneuvers is hey, You can always run. You may not be able to outrun the enemy bullets entirely, but you should... Space is so huge, you should never feel stuck in an engagement. It's just that if you are smuggling, you presumably have to go somewhere where there's going to be, authority figures between you and it. So you might have to get creative. But Star Sector's neat. I hope to get a little more playtime this weekend. Like I said, I probably would have booted it up a couple times during the week, but I've been resting my little mouse hand and watching a lot of She-Ra.
Watching a lot of She-Ra.
5 seasons. Anything else either about Star Sector or in general you want to talk about, Leggy?
Sorry, I am thinking.
He's thinking. We do that a lot. We think.
I do like to think.
I'll add a little bit of voice work to break up the dead air, but also it'll just be cut out.
But no, I don't think so.
That is how it is sometimes. Like you said, you've been a little ill. I've been a little busy, and again, not ill, but resting.
Yeah.
Don't want to cause permanent damage to my right hand. I really probably need to. I've budgeted before. I need to double check. Maybe during the summer months when things are a little more fat, as we tend to get much more views and revenue around anniversary time. Funny how that works.
Funny.
But I need to look into getting another compact writing laptop again, so I can chill on my bed or sit anywhere. Might be cheaper than a chair. But in that case, if there's nothing else going around, let's do a little rain talk.
A little rain talk.
Regan is uploaded. I believe you are correct. I think it is 70.
I wasn't sure.
We have not posted it, but it is uploaded, so it'll probably be coming out the day after this, just to keep the upload schedule consistent. But yeah, we got back to Rain after our week off and our big cliffhanger.
Ta-da!
And I think it was a pretty good run.
I think so.
How to phrase it? Everybody was a little tense about it, including myself. It was a tense moment. We were all kind of wondering how it would go, but it worked out for the better, but not without, I think, still keeping some of that tension in points. Both. Sorry, I was going to say intentional and unintentional, and then I was like, it's funny. Intent is separate from tension, but they both still have tent in them. Anyway, unintended, coupling syllables. But yeah, there was both unintentional and intentional tension in the moments. But I think it worked out for everybody. And I think it was all around a pretty solid role-playing sesh. We were, at times, a little gloopy.
Yeah.
But I think that was just, because we took the week off. There were times when, everybody was going around blah, 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 blah. I can't speak right now. Hold on. But we got our groove, and it was a pretty solid session. It was basically the whole... Sorry, I was about to say something that was ambiguous. I was going to say it was the whole night. It was the session was majority the entire evening that the incident happened. The cliffhanger. We love incidents. The noodle incident. The moment. That thing with the stuff. God, I'm trying to remember. That was not the literal noodle incident. That was a Calvin and Hobbes trip. We talked about that, I think, actually on the podcast last week. But,
yeah.
I'm trying to remember... There's another, very famous example of the noodle incident trope, which is just, one character goes, hey, can I count on you? And they're like, of course, I still owe you for that thing in that place. And I'm like, I can't remember what that is, but that's a very iconic example of it. I think that joke has been aped a couple of times, which is probably why I can't place it. But yeah, so the aftermath of Aurelia's duels got settled. I think, like I said, every character had kind of a good moment to bring it out. Not every character got to hit exactly, I think, what you had in mind, when kind of thinking about it in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But that is a nature of role-playing, right?
Yeah.
But it was solid. You should look forward to it. And we should be next session getting back to the tournament, which only has a few days left.
Yeah. And the last week. I am hopeful that with summer card over, we'll be able to move into moving time along again swiftly, so we can get the rest of the year's events out of the way. And we're kind of locked in. We're kind of locked in for the rest of the year, just for stint of our planning. But I think once we go over to the new year and Rain, definitely going to try and keep
the looser schedule. Yeah,
and a looser schedule, not drum down on things as much.
We had a couple of months before Summer Court that were very much that, right? We're just loose plans, make a couple rolls, and then have a couple of sessions that were drilled in on one set of events. Yeah. But obviously, Summer Court was a lot like the court of the Festival of the Rising Dragon, which is kind of like a spring court. It's funny how that works. And just kind of powered through.
Yeah.
Technically, the king will also be hosting maybe not traveling, but will have probably big festivals or meetings around the later season. Harvest is taxing time, and there's probably a winter courting. But that is also everywhere in Troy Corone, winter is like the home season. That's the season where almost everybody is like shut up in their place, even if it's not like literally snowed in. So you can probably just send representatives, and I will keep you in touch via letters about what's going on. But yeah, that's Summer Court was always going to be kind of drilled down. Luckily, the me fucking with you aside, the first week was really chaotic because that was hung up on a couple of core meetings that you guys planned and some that I planned, but was, had no overarching theme and was really drilled down to specific meetings. And we did talk about getting a little, a little lost in the sauce, as they say, like on the micromanaging. So that was something we had to work through. Once we broke with that, the second week of the technology fair went by pretty swiftly, and the tournament would have gone by pretty swiftly. But again, I was fucking with them. I had incidents, events occurring. Now that that's displaced, the rest of the tournament should flow pretty good, and we'll see how the last week goes exactly. I can't imagine it taking too long, but there are a couple of events you guys have kind of put a pin in. I almost said pin the tail on, and I'm like, that's not the right analogy.
No, like...
And then after that, I'm thinking. Go ahead. I'm thinking in my brain.
I think, like, at least from Eno's side, a lot of his stuff is very, very small. Little moments here and there. I did keep forgetting that I need to speak to the Kith on their views of death and maybe some other stuff. I genuinely forgot about that. I actually need to write that down, so I'm glad you reminded me. So I'll probably try to work on that next session. While everyone's off tournamenting and whatnot. I do think that I am going to try and keep my my observations to myself more often, just to see if people do things or not. Because I'm always curious if when someone does something, I'm always all like, did they do that because I said something, or did they do that because they actually thought of it?
Yeah, the team, the players, the real life players, will occasionally shop around ideas, because they're not sure what to do, or sometimes they are sure of what they want to do, but they don't know if it's a good idea. Nicola. Dallas has worked to shop a lot of ideas that were terrible. Usually he does not get started on them because they are terrible, but he thinks about them out loud. And we're like, Nicola, that's a bad idea.
Don't do that.
Yeah. But yeah, certainly they workshop, but there's we have kind of talked about both micromanaging everybody and kind of the, what's the phrase? Not really the crosstalk, but the interchange of ideas, and is everybody playing their characters good, or are we just, pushing buttons, flicking dials kind of a thing? And it's it's not really supposed to be that. This was elements of a long conversation we had after the last session off mic, which was just no, I really don't expect you guys to play perfectly all the time. It will be much more comfortable for you guys and thus for me if you guys just play things out to your character beats as much as you feel comfortable with, and then we kind of make it go from there. Obviously, I think in character, you guys can show restraint. That happened several times during the previous session, where, the characters clearly felt one way, but acted differently because that was more appropriate in character. Yeah. Which is, by the way, is good. That's good role-playing. That's good role-playing when, you're okay, my character clearly feels this way about it, and sometimes that comes out a little in what I'm saying, but what I'm doing is something different. Because people do that shit all the time.
Oh yeah.
But definitely the idea that the guys and in particular this was some stuff we bounced back and forth with Axe. So Leslock is the heir. You don't need to be playing it perfectly because it is not a 4X game. It is a game of noble houses where, again, the kind of idea of Reign is that your organization, your company would survive if one of the characters exploded and died. So you guys don't need to worry about the company being fragile because it's not. Especially right now, you guys have gone crazy good on buffing your treasure and sovereignty right now. So even if you guys deliberately went out of your way to piss off the High King and stuff, and he revoked your official titles, your realm wouldn't be done because the people would survive a period of open rebellion. Not indefinitely, but you guys have pretty decent company stats in some areas. Not in every area, obviously. But you've compensated for your weaknesses, and I think I have gotten across to the crew that it is not necessarily an end game goal to have all your company stats at 6, Obviously, that would make accomplishing certain tasks easier, but that's not necessarily a reasonable factor. It's not like you're gonna keep scaling up your stats forever, kind of a thing. So like, there's room for error, and I think you should do more about like what your characters want to do, and kind of play it out there. That's kind of like what we were talking about, stepping back from some of the like planning and micromanaging out for every little thing. And I do think that our next series of weeks and months are what is it? They can flow by better. That's the word I'm looking for. Like you was saying, like your next plan will be the Prince tour, which you're going to integrate step 1 of the next Fogvale step into. That should probably go by relatively quick. Like, oh god, it could probably be a single session. That really depends, like, how much you guys want to hang out in character with not just the Crown Prince, but all the rest of the royals you're tagging along. But also, like, I kind of feel like we have you guys have hung out with those characters a lot. We have a pretty good grasp on what they're like.
Mm-hmm.
There are some specific, like, combos that we could pull off. Like, it would be great to maybe get some more, like, one-on-one scenes with, like, Conrad and a couple of the royals, because Conrad has very specifically avoided them because they're scary. Or, like, I think mostly Nicola has spent time specifically with, like, the first and second prince, like, getting him some time, like, with Estelle and her coterie, or, like, Nerissa with anybody, because, you know, she is going to end up marrying into your family. Like, those would be good scenes for roleplay, but we don't have to shoehorn them in, so, like, that could be a relatively quick session. And then I'm pretty sure, I'll ask you guys again, we're not locked in because I haven't written it, but I'm pretty sure your next first step is going to be, once it rolls around to Fall 1, is we're going to hit the Corsairs. I think that's where your heads are at, but that's technically, we've got a little room. It could be Corsairs first, or it could be your trip up to Egg first, to, like, touch base, keep building your bridges, and to do a little mystery investigating.
Mystery investigations.
Because, you know, I've given you guys some lead about Ysbrand Frost and what he's up, and you also, as Enos, you know, sent some guys, did some company rolls to set up to soften the ground for that operation as well.
Yeah.
So, like, there's stuff there that you guys can work on that, and that, again, that could be, you know, depending on how much actual micro time there is, that could be a you know, half a session, even if not just a full session, easy, but might be longer depending on how much in-person investigating and delving you want to do, and if you guys accept, you know, simple answers, because, you know, it's like, oh, well, where's Ysbrand Frost? Well, he's fucking around on the north coast somewhere. You know, he's staying out of civilized ports. You guys might go, okay, so he's not making any money moves right this second. We don't need to worry about it. Or it could be like, he's evading my investigations. We must go after him to investigate closer. I must see. I must know. Which, again, that is the part that slows down play, but that is also both very human, or is very human for both the players and the characters. Again, people are like that. So yeah, you've got Corsairs, Fogvale trip, not Fogvale, Egg trip, Corsairs of the Fogvale, and then monster hunting. And the plan is for all of that to basically happen roughly over the 3 fall months.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not exactly all in 1 month, but, you know, giving you, thinking on a month-by-month basis gives you an opportunity to kind of throw put your whole ass into company roles, and then it comes back. So, you know, I think, you know, thinking about it in, like, months of time and season works out. And then basically winter 1 is going to be get all your shit together and vamoose. Lesluck has still, he has not taken back his desire to pop in for a short one in the Cauldron. I think everybody is okay with a short Cauldron trip to, you know, touch base, check in with Lesluck's relatives. They are supposed to be your trade partners, after all. So a small touch base, and then go crazy style on the speed and haul your ass to Keltacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully, if you're record setting, that will only take, you know, part of the first month to do a little Cauldron visit, and then haul ass, pick up Aurelia, since you're planning on popping around for a Collegica Tactica.
I did like that idea personally.
No, it's a good one, actually. I think it's a neat one. Give her a, you know, effectively a semester, a 3-monther off.
Yeah.
To mind her own beeswax and train.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you guys will reunite sometime in winter and do Keltacy. That one's gonna be another, like, big one. That'll as it makes sense for the dead of winter, but that will probably be another, like, big, long, multiple session, because it'll be like, you guys will have to go to Marquette. You'll have to meet the Baron in his home turf and see the sights. You will not escape seeing the sights. The Baron will be there.
I should probably try to coordinate Aurelia hooking up with Narissa, because we're going to pick her up as well.
That'd probably be very doable. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
That'd give her some time to hang. That would probably put Huron back in the fold.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as a ensign of the Blood Shield, a squire, he's still in training, but he'll be bouncing back and forth under Narissa's command.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll be good. But yeah, so you're going to have to see Marquette. You may or may not engage in a little casual monster slaying. And then, for sure, you're going to pop to the Alchemical College, because you're going to go there and do research. And then from there, you guys are, plot-wise, probably going to have to go into the Golden Desert. You might decide you don't want to go in the Golden Desert right away, but if you want to get your plot coupons, you're going to have to go in the Golden Desert, because that's where the Kith are and all their stuff. And maybe, you guys still haven't locked it in, maybe you'll pop into a couple of other sites in Aquinar. You could always visit Castle Knight, and then, it's still open-ended whether or not you'd be making a diplomatic trip down to Tempest as well. I kind of feel like we're feeling no, but I don't know how we'll feel in the middle of winter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you got. Like, Logesh obviously wouldn't mind hanging out with the Espadas more, but we're busying things. But yeah, no, Rain's super cool. I think we had a good session. We're plotting it out.
No, I'm excited as always.
Yes, Rain, good Rain.
Very good Rain. I need to work on some plot schemes now. Now that I think about it.
Some evil schemes. You are the schemer. That was another thing we did kind of talk about character archetypes, as like, you didn't really set out, Enos to be like cool guy number one, most favorite person in the realm. But like the Enos is kind of like the literally, I think you're the devil's advocate character. Like, you're questioning everybody, you're kind of poking and you're social, but you are definitely still down to clown for a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And hopefully we can grab some stuff. I know that, like, Axe talking about being a little fatigued. I know that he really likes a lot of the like, world building and mystical mystery stuff, and, like, there'll be a little bit of that on the Fogvale end, just because it's a spooky mystical place. But that's going to be, like, a lot of heavy lifting in Keltacy, because that's, like, that your trip to the Alchemical College and then going out from there is, like, that is a major factor in, like, where some of your mystery check-ins are, some of your global plot threads. But yeah, I'm glad people are thinking about conversations they need to have. Yeah. Or conversations they want to have, actually. That should be a way I should phrase it. Conversations they want to have, not conversations they need to have, but stuff you want to do. That should be how it is we should be hunting for scenes that you want to do, and then maybe don't gotta do, but do anyway.
Yeah, no, because that was definitely a thing. There's definitely a few things that I wanted to do during the whole Aurelia crisis, but I didn't get the chance to. Some being from, like, other player choices, and some from, the GM giving me a choice, and I was just like, shit. Nah, fucking Agave Shabal saying, where do you need to be right now, made me go, fuck, like, Mensa. Well, actually, I was kind of like that in the moment, too. I'm just like, oh, man, I hate this question.
I know, that's why I asked it. That was, so, the kind of, like, the in my head, like, I even brought this up, like, my structure of it was, I always knew it would be, Leslak would get woken up first. And when he gets there, assuming he's going to go there right away, the Crown Prince is going to be there to investigate. I thought about having him be in the room already, but I figured that was a little too spooky. That was a little too on the ball. And then obviously, Leslak would be told someone has been sent to get Nicola right away, because that is what would happen. But Nicola does, live like 15 minutes away in town. Mm-hmm. And then I've always been like, no, as Master of Ceremonies, Enos is a mover and shaker who is deeply tied to this. That would be what the Crown Prince's move would be, is to, if needed, wake Enos up, because we did kind of talk about whether or not people be asleep or not. And the idea of Enos staying up late to be in his office and do work shit, perfect sense.
It does.
That moment was like, yeah, that's what's going to happen, is Agave Cheval is going to knock on your door and be like, where do you need to go? I'm supposed to get you there.
No, and the whole thing, I think, man, because Enos really did have a struggle with him at that moment, like, himself at that moment. I think I can finally say, if, like, Agave Cheval hadn't, done that and phrased the thing the way he does, Enos might have been a little bit more aggressive in things. But Agave Cheval showing up, telling him to be calm and where does he need to be, I think really made Enos focus, and made me focus too. So,
I mean, that is kind of like, that is very... Obviously, I phrased it that way to make the characters have a think, but Agave was the character to do that, because that is kind of her thing. Like, there was there was, not that it, we talked before about, like, conversations you miss. I think of different replies to different angles. And definitely when you were, because I always known Agave was going to be there. Oops, sorry, tap the top of my mic arm. So I always knew that Agave was going to be involved. So when you were thinking, out loud some of your more aggressive actions and thoughts, I was already, like, thinking of possible rebuttals. Obviously, the way, like we said, Agave came up, approached you, made you approach things in a different way. But, like, Agave is the kind of person who is, like, we don't do things because they are easy. We do them because they are right. They are correct. So it's like, where, burden of duty, where are you needed right now? Where do you need to go? Not where do you want to go? Not where would you like to go? Where do you need to go? Because that's her kind of thinking, and that's exactly why the Crown Prince picked her to go get Enos, because she would phrase it that way.
No, it was good. Like, honestly, Enos is probably thinking that this was all, plotted out by the Crown Prince. So,
which is funny because it was, but also it absolutely wasn't. I think the Crown Prince is not, he's still a little young. He's probably not enough of a megalomaniac to think that, like, everything would unfold, to his design. He was probably really thinking, like, okay, I have in my mind what I'd like Enos to do, but I truly do not know exactly what he will do when posed this question.
Mm-hmm.
I can only hope that by phrasing it this way and by setting up the situation in this circumstance, that whatever follows is beneficial to everyone, or at the very least not harmful to anybody. And I wanted to actually, I can say something because we're way past it and I cannot retcon it in. I wanted to have a moment of, like, more weird Menas stuff where he would, like, pop up, with you and Agave, of her, like, talking about, like, okay, the Crown Prince is here, blah, 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 Estelle's here, by the way, and I'd be like, oh, I have no idea where the second prince is, and he would be like, I'm hiding in this alcove waiting for you to come by, because I can hear you down the hallway. Kind of a thing. Like, but I kind of felt that, like, Enos being in his office, and like you said, you had to think about it for a second, but once Enos was locked in, he was locked in. I did not have, like, the right downtime to bring that up. And like I said, there were other moments where I was, like, sequences where I'm like, oh, do I want to ratchet, like, the moment between Baroness Marin and Marquis Espada was, like, I had that in my head as, like, if Enos does the work to kind of, work on repairing that thing.
Yeah.
Which is why I said that I was earlier in the week.
No, I was really wondering when that scene came out. I was like, did that happen because we kind of repaired that relationship a little bit?
Yes, like, I since you were talking about doing that for quite a while before you pulled the trigger on that made me think about how that would interpret in this scene, and I'm like, okay, so Nicola's gonna get woken up. Huron's not gonna be quiet. Marin is gonna find out about this scenario, and she's gonna arrive because, as previously established, Alarion Marin did not buy into the generational feud at any point. As the youngest sibling, she's the the rebellious one, and is like, I don't care about that. I'm cool. I'm too cool for that. So naturally, upon hearing that Aurelia's been injured, she would try and bus in. So Marin's gonna find out, and then I was like, how would Marin feel about this? And I'm like, I want Marquis Espada to either in direct earshot or just two people overhearing, depending on where things go. I'm kind of glad it didn't work out this way, because I think Enos would have been, again, a bit more of a problem. But I'd also wondered if Enos's thought where he needs to go is, like, we need to go to the High King angle, like, that might be some shit you overhear in the hallway with some of this motive rant he's got going on. But, like, I wanted Espada to kind of get out in the open some of his feelings, which I think went correctly. Everybody talking about afterward, kind of him talking about, like, basically his conclusion of, like, hey, your house is actually, like, doing really good right now. You guys are doing great, but you guys should reel it in a little and count your blessings, because someday you're gonna bite off more than you can chew. Because as we came with an empathy roll, that is kind of in his mind what happened to Leofric, was that, like, Leofric personally, pushed investigations, kept notes in his journal, tried to accomplish things alone or with a small inner circle, rather than bring it up to the whole wider council, kind of a thing. And that's what got him killed, and so far has made his murder unsolvable, which may have a grain of truth to it. Obviously, I think Leofric was not expecting somebody to, snip the important case notes out of the last handful of pages of his journals and stuff, right?
Right.
But, like, because he kind of was a gung-ho, play it close to the vest, small circle of adventurers friends, he was not a meticulous, perfect record keeper, other than probably his personal diary, which created kind of a single point of failure sort of scenario. But, you guys would have 1,000 rebuttals to some of that as well. You even voiced that Enos had a couple of things he would raise if he was there personally. Mm-hmm. But I wanted him to kind of get these feelings out. But again, to kind of he's in a bad mood, he's frustrated, he's got a lot of stuff going on. His life may have flashed before his eyes a little bit. May have had a little bit of that oh shit moment of himself biting off more than he could chew, which he would just... that would be a thing of, if you brought up straight up, didn't you bite off more you could chew by deciding to try and fight Moira Two Swords? And he would be like, yeah, actually, I did. That was a dumb thing of me to do. That was a mistake. That's a thing I can own, that was not a thing I should have done. And be like, and you guys should think about that too. You're gonna do some things that you shouldn't do, and we should try to avoid that because there's so much, riding on us as heads of house kind of a thing. But I definitely, in my mind, went ooh, but if Ina, when you thought about talking about repairing the relationship, giving Marin that chance for closure of ooh, that means though that if she's there when Espada says some of that stuff, she is going to take it bad. And that would work as a great moment to kind of re-establish her character in this context of how you guys have kind of seen how Marin works when you've been kind of on edge against each other. This is kind of the reverse side. When she's pointing, the cutlass somewhere else, this is how she's which is okay, if you insult my dead friend, I have to fight you because otherwise my personal sense of honor won't allow it. I will lose this fight, but I'm okay losing because unlike you, my heir situation is settled. My realm will not revolt if I have to be replaced. And in fact, they will probably pick the replacement who promises to fuck you over out of revenge first. Whereas, we did a lot of diving into Espada's culture a little bit as kind of a passive thing and being yeah, no, Espada has their own ways and means that are very foreign to yours. They are kind of, as the other March, supposed to be a little bit of a foil, right? We do kind of character inverts, but Espada has these political, socio-political structures going on that's they respect skill, strength, bravery, but in the dumb way. The willing to be die kind of way, That's one thing you can never say that the Espada don't think about. The Espada are always willing to die for their dumb ideas. It's why they had to make a conscious effort to develop the Code Duello and roll back on that, because being willing to die over every conflict is dumb. Some conflicts are not worth dying over. You can just, punch each other in the face and shake hands and go home. But they are also, they are very passionate, very in touch with their emotions, very artistic in that way as well. Which would be something I wouldn't mind you guys going to Tempest and showing more directly. But like I said, I don't know if the gang feels like that. I'm sure we will go to Tempest at some point and exposit. But yeah. That was a good moment to get over there. So that kind of explains how the Marquis Espada is in a much more perilous position, because as Leslak got a good empathy roll, because the Marquis is not an asshole to his kids. He does not actually have a favorite child. He does love all of them, which makes his job tougher. Because if he could just have a favorite heir and write everybody else off, he'd have a much better position. But he can't, so he's stuck half-assing it. And like I said, if you guys wanted to maybe get him to fucking unpack that a little, you guys could probably work on him a little. But like I said, I don't know how you guys are feeling about your older generational members. You guys may decide that it would be much more productive to work on Rodrigo or Ainara as kind of the end goal of that and sand that edge that way. Old people are not always good at changing their ways. And you know that your good friend, your great protector and enforcer of the law, defender of the faith, the High King, would definitely not want anything bad to happen to you or the realm. That's why he will be here forever.
Sir, you did not have to say that.
No, you're right. I did because every single time the High King has been doing something cool and expansive and out there, the crew is oh my god, the High King's so gonna die. Dallas is the most convinced of the trope because he's the moment I bring it up, he's oh, he's gonna die tonight, and I'm Dallas, calm down. I'm not gonna die tonight. That would be dumb. But at the same time, that is a necessary aspect of writing. Is at some point the High King has to get out of here we move on to the next phase because we have to kind of like play off what you guys are going to do in that vacuum. We have to set up for the Crown Prince to do his next arc as well. Like, there have to be these continuations. But it is also, like, very funny to me, that moment of just, like, much like your big dad, Leofric Logi, the High King is also a similar character who's just, like, he cannot stay here forever. That he is too cool, and this shit is too stable. Well, it's not about the scandal. It's about what works for the narrative.
It's about the Mets.
It's all about the Mets, baby. It's not always about the money, Spider-Man. It's about the Mets, baby. Go Mets. But yes, we're having a fun time with Rain. Anything else Rain related to pop in? Any weird things you're thinking about?
Well, I'm thinking about plenty of weird things, I'll have you know very much, but many of them are secret. I have many secret plans.
Plans and plans and plans.
I actually need to talk to you probably in a DM about a couple of them.
That is kind of the time for that.
Yeah, because like I said, I want to start making moves and stuff. But again, this is one of those things that like, always bugs me about tabletop. It's like I'm usually like not too averse about talking about my things openly, but sometimes I do want to surprise, and sometimes I do want to avoid cross-player contamination.
Yeah, no, I get that. I like genuinely. Yeah. I think Dallas is probably my other player who goes to the back, goes to the back bench kind of a thing. Can I talk to you in my office kind of stuff? Like Dallas is the player I've had who does that the most, but usually he does that mostly because it is something that Nicola would have, would do privately. And, I talked to him. He also brings up plenty of stuff out loud. I think he's gotten more open about it in Rain, specifically because it is more, I think, character appropriate. Nicola's not really a secretive guy.
Yeah.
So, Nicola will, even if they're bad ideas, Nicola will float them to the group and kind of crosstalk. But yeah, it's mostly been for this game, you and Dallas have been the kind of characters or the players who've been, oh yeah, I got some stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, it is that time to check in with some of that stuff.
So I'll probably do some stuff on the sly then. No, sometimes No, Aaron says that Omega knows Conrad better than I do sometimes. I feel that way about Enos sometimes as well. Where you just something happens, it's like, oh yeah, it was like playing this way, and I was like, shit, you got me.
I do feel good about that. I smile a little. I rub my hands. But it is also like characters are characters, You guys are basically improving and writing these characters in the moment. But I don't think anybody is doing any crazy outlandish characters this time around, right?
That's true.
Most of you are pretty relievable. Because I have a more macro scale view, I do think there are times when I do not necessarily know exactly how far you guys are still going with kind of the trauma. Because, it happened. I did it. I inflicted it. I did a 3-year time skip. And we've been playing for 65 sessions after that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, as the author, I'm kind of yes, that was the inciting incident. And then, you guys are still not over it sometimes in funny ways. And it's like I said, it's one of those things where, to me, it is funny how much as players you guys kind of wobble back and forth on the paranoia vengeance scale, Sometimes you're we're very concerned with whether or not the enemies of our house are plotting against us, and if we can catch them, so we might do revenge. And then other times it's huh? What? The secret conspiracy? Oh, right. Those guys are there. Sorry, I was playing with my Lego bricks. The gang ocelots. And I don't want to say that, you're never not thinking about them, but it definitely feels like sometimes there are times when it's oh yeah, right, we could have been plotting this out to be more paranoid and more vengeance seeking. But we weren't. We were thinking about something else. We had a different concern kind of a thing, right? But all that to say that I have been with these characters as kind of your authorial figure, your referee for quite a long time now. So I think I have a decent read, knowing what every character's motivations are supposed to be, their actual, capital M motivations, and their non-capital M motivations are supposed to be, and kind of how they react. And I have lots and lots of time to observe what the characters respond to things. So, usually I think I've got a pretty good hand at writing for each character and kind of thinking about what they're going to do. And if not knowing exactly what paths you guys would take, knowing what asking the right question looks like. The thing, again, with Agave Cheval is, I'm in my head, it's no, she's going to ask where you need to be. Because that is both how reflective of the character And also I think that's going to prompt Enos to make a tougher choice. Like, I think that asking Enos where do you want to be is, like, super easy. Like, Enos might not always admit it out loud, but I think Enos usually knows where he would want to be a lot of the time, and that would probably be doing less of some of this bullshit. You know, kind of the same with, like, Nicola. Not that I actually, honestly, I say that. I think it would be much better to ask Nicola the reverse. It would much be better to ask Nicola, where do you want to be? Because Nicola is has a martyr complex and a self-sacrificing tendency and throws himself into his work. Even though in character Nicola has had strong objections to following you guys into danger several times, he also does not believe he has the capacity to stop you guys, so he follows you along anyway, even though it really stresses him out. He was really not happy with the Fogvale trip.
No.
That was the moment where he was like, hold on, I need to prep my spells so I can check if, like, we can drink the water and breathe the air. Because he was worried it was that haunted. It's not that haunted. Because obviously there are people there. I hid people in there. It's a much bigger, scarier problem.
Prophecy.
If the Fogvale was just, like, nothing but constantly demons and, like, you know, environmental hazards, it would be a lot easier to tackle. Hell, it'd probably be easier to write off. But because there's people, it's a much more complex problem that you guys all had to rankle with. But yeah, like, I think I've got a pretty decent line on the characters and know when to ask the right questions. It is sometimes, you know, tough to find the right moment to pitch to every character, like, when these big questions are. Like, that's something that specifically with I think, like, the way Comrade and Logesh's characters are written and portrayed is harder to pitch them those balls.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the surface, Comrade's a pretty straightforward character. He's been designed to be a guy who hits things. With, you know, the whole crew has kind of the whole simmering revenge. He just took the trauma in the Batman direction for a while. He's kind of gotten over that, but he could always go back. It's simmering under the surface, much like Batman. But also that means that, like, Conrad, when faced with problems, tends to tackle them head on, even to his detriment. Which means that, like, setting up interesting character choices is trickier, because it's got to be a situation of, like, you know, is it better for Conrad to take head on, or is it not better?
Yeah.
And also, sometimes Aaron I've talked about this before, the whole Wargman incident, Aaron did slow roll me a little on that. Like, I had that ready several in-game days before he decided to pull the trigger. Like, that was, as Wargman, you know, Conrad was very, very methodical and slow about that operation until it crescendoed into a big, scary climax. But I was ready for that part way earlier. Yeah. Honestly, the one that went much faster was the I was originally planning on everybody going to, like, the archives again, but, you know, that was actually a pretty solid use where Leslie used Mirror to just be like, hey, this Mariposa Marsh lady, what's her deal? And just be like, where's she at? And just be like, the Mirror is like, wah, 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 the answers. Here's the place you're looking for. It's spooky.
It was a little spooky.
And, like, Logesh is kind of the same way, where, like, I think I have a decent grasp on, like, what his character is actually about. You know, the stuff to tantalize him with is I think it was a good use of your spell. You want to be careful about using magic to solve every single problem, and that's why I wrote a failsafe that the spell can't always tell you the answers to questions beyond you can. But in the moment, you did actually skip some work, and it was pretty solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Logesh sample size is kind of the thing. Like, I know, like, on paper, what should drive Logesh. The thing to, like, drive him forward, like, the carrot and the stick, is, like, moments where he can kind of, like, stand out from the group, where he can, like, compete against you guys, but also not, I mean, the joke would be, but not compete against you, you know what I mean? Like, because Leslock doesn't hate your guts, as the rest of the Logie boys. He was suffering through heat exhaustion. Sorry, Logesh. Logesh doesn't hate your guts. Leslock also doesn't hate your guts. Logesh doesn't hate the Logie boys' guts. But he does have kind of this complex about rivalry, like he has a inferiority thing going on with the crew because he is you know, the second best. He should have been the main, but he is now the branch because of circumstance, and, you know, he's trying to unpack all that. And sometimes, you know, I dangle stuff in front and Logesh bites, but then there are other times where you know, I try to offer opportunities to develop in different angles, and Logesh is not as interested in that. Some of that I think is just the backstory writing, but, like, Logesh's relationship with the Palak side of his family is more distant, and Loth, as a player, is not always good at picking up when I'm laying that track.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes he's like, no, you're right, I would be interested in that. Like, sometimes he's there, he's like, you're right, I would be interested in this. Logesh is excited for this. But also Logesh is like, oh, actually, do I want to say that? That could be true. I was going to say Logesh is kind of the moral core of the team. like, not quite the heart, but, like, I think most of the rest of the crew, I shall say, kind of battles with their own, their own lesser evils and inner demons kind of a thing. Like, Conrad has anger issues. Enos, honestly, has anger issues. Like, he has a lot of shit he's still working on. Leslock is less angry, but Axe earlier did say more wrathful, and I think that's correct. Like, he doesn't have, like, the hot burn anger, but I think Leslock has shown that he does have some spice in him, and, like, it's kind of a slow brew, but it could come out in bad, nasty ways. Like, he is kind of the one bad day away from becoming an evil sorcerer type shit. Logesh does have some demons, but like I said, he has anger, but I don't think he has wrath, if people follow me along on that. Like, Logesh is a character in Loth as a player, gets upset about things, gets annoyed with things, gets angry at the crew for, not always taking him seriously and other shit like that, or pressuring him to take too much seriously. Again, his whole inferiority-superiority complex. But, like, he is also a character who is, like, genuinely very openly concerned about the family, the house, the common folk, And not to say that the others aren't, but, like, that is a thing that he consistently brings up is, like, Logesh is interested in, like, the suffering of the little people and, like, how you guys can use your vast influence and power to alleviate that. Nicola is kind of interested in that, but Nicola feels like he's interested in a much more, how would I say, like,
big picture?
Tangible, hands-on way?
Oh, even less. The small picture.
Yeah. Like, he is, like, I know for a fact, if, like, a guy covered in bloody rags, stumbled into the street in front of Nicola would drop his shit and fix that guy, right?
Right.
If Nicola hears, is there a doctor in the house? Nicola would stand up and go, hello, even if it wasn't his circus, wasn't his monkey kinds of a things. But Nicola has been slow to develop his big long-term plans. Like, he is still interested in, like, growing the general health of your house and lands, right? Building his doctor team squad.
Team doctor.
But, like, very, very general, like, whereas Logesh is kind of the reverse of that, where he's, like, or more, a little more Loth is, like, I think he would probably say that Logesh is smarter than he is, but there have been moments, again, where character and player decisions are not always separate, where it's, like, he doesn't always know what the best course of action for people is, but he is very vested in finding it. That's, like, a question that was coming up with his mission for, like, the Smiths boys. He's like, this is a problem we want to work on, and I want to keep it in mind, but I don't know what to do right away. So I will think about it, and I will consult. But not consult too much, because it's my decision. Meh. You're not the boss of me. Yeah.
Yeah, he says.
That's probably much more Loth than Logesh. I don't think Logesh is really a nyah kind of character, but it comes out in the roleplay sometimes. So like I said, Logesh is not like, I don't know if I'd call him the heart of the team, but he is like definitely a guy who will think about these kinds of things, even arguably to his detriment.
Yeah.
Like, Comrade is concerned with, like, I guess I can say it as, like ethics and morality, but much more in, like, the spiritual center. Like, it's not like Conrad wants to be a good boy, but, like, Conrad is very aware of, like, the religious precepts of this world and is like, well, all this stuff exists for a reason, gang. We wouldn't want to do a heresy, right? That would be bad for us and for other people. Conrad competes with Nicola for that slot, but yeah. Nicola's a religious scientist, so he's not afraid to test the boundaries. I think X meant, like, universally religious. Enos is very focused in his religion.
That is true.
What would be there would be a way to phrase that, like, where devoted is a good one. You're very, very religiously devoted, possibly very pious, but you're very focused in that. Yes. I like devoted, yeah, very, very devotional. You are dedicated to Dea Tacita and your culture's specific spiritual beliefs as Enos, but Enos has sometimes wondered about, the broader metaphysical implications of, like, religion and the world, which interests the team greatly. Whereas Conrad's much more up to date with his, like, focal thing going on. And Nicola's got a pretty broad religious understanding as well. Leslick, I feel like, kind of, like, weaves in and out of, like again, with the religiosity. Like, you're not a super focused guy, but you understand that again, the gods and spiritual forces are real, so you'll walk the walk and talk the talk. And Fornexia, I think, interests Leslock because there is the implication of a more personal, focused relationship with the gang. But also, there's multiple room for that. Like, Leslock could be super laser focused in on the relationship between Logi Torchbearer and Dea Tacita, which is a thing that has been explained. I do kind of feel like that Axe would not think to go in that direction necessarily, because he would think that is kind of like getting into Enos' niche protection. But I've also talked about this where, like, Leslock could develop a more spiritual relationship with the Wood Lord, who is supposed to be the source of his sorcery, but Leslock is also not from a discipline that practices that sorcery necessarily as, like, a devotional aspect, so it feels very separate. And honestly, it turned out that way, not that it was that way when we wrote it, but it turned out that way that, like, Veilcraft is probably the best match for that, because the Wood Lord is absolutely the kind of, like, mischievous little fucker who would absolutely be like, yeah, do whatever. Have some fun with my gifts, Pull some pranks, man. Spy on some people. Do a little trolling. By which he means literally, disguise yourself as a troll and hide under a bridge. That's, like, I think it would be very, very different if Leslock was, like, the way he is and was, like, a summoner as, like, his weird out-of-place magic. Like, working with, like, Tempestus' sorcery. Guys, you haven't really hung with the Thunderer too much. You're not real big on that one. But guess what? She is the goddess who represents metaphysically justice, so she's kind of a rules lawyer. It'd be funny, and also can stop them. It does force them to go down. There are rules for that. Just be like, prankster, trip him. Prank him, John. Anyway, we're very excited for Rain. There's a lot of stuff simmering. I'll be glad if you remember to have that. Not that, obviously, since it's your idea, you should feel forced to have the conversation at any point. But when you have that conversation with Ramil about some stuff, we'll get to preface some stuff for down south, because I got a lot of ideas simmering for Keldasi. I'm very excited for that one.
Oh no, Enos is probably gonna go popping into the Oro group and check on Paz, make sure everything's okay, and probably talk with some people. So
yeah,
while the tournament's going on,
perfect.
Enos will take care of some stuff.
All right. Well, the raw recording is about a little under 3.5 hours, about 3:20 right now. So not the longest episode, but not the shortest episode. Woo! We'll trim some of that out, but it's about 1:30, and we've been doing a lot of different things, and it's a slow news week. We could probably pack it up here. I'm pretty sure I asked before Rain Talk if there was anything else you wanted to bring up, and you thought and were like, no, not so much. So I think that's a wrap.
I think that's a wrap.
We'll pack it in. Stay tuned for next episode, where hopefully we'll have confirmation of White Day of CBC. Because again, it's got to be soon. There's like 3 days left in Valentine's, so it has to be coming soon. So, that'll be out there, and then we'll also probably think about whatever's happening next in JP. That's a word I was like trying to find the words for that one. After Valentine's, there will be something in JP. They're not getting a story release until June, so they will presumably have normal monthly events to fill that gap. And hopefully by next Friday evening, let me crack my calendar, but I'm pretty sure it's the 26th. It's like the 26th, the 3rd. Yeah. So hopefully by next Friday, we'll be able to get some hands-on on Marathon. Like I said, I'm planning on clearing my schedule, so hopefully we can stream at least a little bit of Marathon Server Slam first day to show people what's up. But we'll at least definitely be able to talk about it. And like I said, I will try and cram some Star Sector. And stay tuned to for the next Rain, for Rain 70. You can see our cool scenes. That'll be out soon. What's already out, plug it at the end here, my Final Fantasy XIV video, specifically the tabletop RPG video. It's out. It took a few edits to get out there, but it's out there for you to check out. Would love if you would look at it, watch it, leave some comments, share it with some people. That'd be super cool. And probably not right away, because I do think I need to work a little on shoring up the next phase of Rain as a writing project. But I will also be working on a shorter script about the Game Master's Guide. But I had a lot of fun making the video. It did take a while to make, so we're going to try and squish that production curve a little. A lot of experimentation. But again, I'm very happy about the video. I'd love for you to check it out. And if you want to check out more of it, more stuff, and see my original creative vision, because I did have to swap some music choices, the coolest music choices are in the original version, you can get that on Patreon. More about that in just a sec, because we are gonna wind it down now and remind you, number 1, like this video. Number 2, for now anyway, check us out on Discord. Join the community Discord, because we'll be doing movie night. Yeah, I think we've been going through Star Wars. We did do Attack of the Clones. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but parts of it were pretty cringe. Literally, like classic cringe. Like, but parts of it were pretty cool. We've been kind of debating about like binging like the Genny series, but because they're like a bunch of 3-minute episodes, that might be a little weird. I do have several TV things I would like to show people, so we may work on that as like a separate thing to like run through a lot of serialized stuff real quick. I think we will probably go straight to number 3 on Saturday. That's the word I'm looking for. On Saturday, which is technically today, we'll do Revenge of the Sith. And then I'll probably ask people to decide if they want to watch the Clone Wars pilot movie, the animated one, the CG animated one, after, or if we jump straight to something else, because we've been on the Star Wars train for a while with only one little break in between.
Yeah. I'm personally for switching to something else. What? I'm not entirely sure yet.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, but we'll see if anybody has any strong feelings, but we can take a break because there are a couple of Star Wars things we still want to do, but I think we should space out the time physically. Like, I want to show... do you want to do Rogue One? And I do actually want to watch Solo again, like as a movie night, because that was another one that was like, it did very poorly at the box office, but when I finally saw it, I was like, it's kind of all right. Like, it has not a problem so much as I would say like missteps, but like was pretty all right. So I'd love to take a second eyeball at it. And they're doing a weird thing where we're doing very soon, actually, in like a month or two, we're doing the movie capstone to the TV series The Mandalorian and Grogu, the Grogster. And like, depending on how that goes, that's something I'm going to look into to watching, and maybe we'll movie night it. But also, that'll be weird because that's the movie to like capstone 3 seasons of TV, which is quite a lot of TV to show. So again, might have to work out some separate time for TV binging as well. But yeah, we'll do Revenge of the Sith, which is going to be pretty interesting because we've talked a lot about how like Star Wars is really good at the third act climax.
Oh yeah.
All the movies have a really strong, but I feel like it's not been like every movie usually opens with a little bit of action, but how much action is very different. Like compare, the like Battle of Hoth to like the Tantive 4 sequence in A New Hope. Also, yes, it is supposed to be Tantive 4. I know some people are like Tantive, but I believe it's Tantive. Last I heard, the opening action set piece to Revenge of the Sith is like crazy good. The battle over Coruscant. So that's always a treat, a delight. So we'll be watching that in our Discord on our movie night. So you can join. Blah blah blah. What's next? Subscribing. If you're new, subscribe to the video. Consider ringing the bell for notifications. You can hit us up our channel memberships, and you can consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get audio downloads for all of our stuff for as little as $1 a month, approximately $10 for an annual membership. That includes audio downloads of the podcast, Let's Talk FGO, but also of our actual plays and of any other audio projects that are appropriate. At higher levels, you can get access to videos early, such as the 14-vid and any upcoming Wanted videos, of which there will be a couple coming out next month, I think. Yeah, I think there's 2 5-stars. And then there's going to be, when we do Mahayo, there's going to be another 2 5-stars. So you want to get those early supporters at higher levels. You can listen to us record Let's Talk FGO live every week. This week we got started a little late, so we had less people, but you can hang out and watch it. And of course, if you want to support us at our highest level, you get an on-air shout-out like Added Heartblack, G, Call Me Zed, Carlos Dragon, JDV9000, Rise of Kenji, Rogarman, and Charvor. Thank you very much, patrons, for supporting us at all levels. And thank you very much, listeners and watchers at all levels for watching along, giving us that delicious, delicious watch time. We'll see you next week for more, and be sure to not only show up for the next episode of Rain Public, but also check us out Monday, because we're gonna beat the Leon campaign. Won't that be so fun? Fun, fun, fun in the sun, sun, sun. Bye-bye now.